Chapter 230. They were not here to congratulate the Sea King. Most of them were here to find out if the Sea King was telling the truth. After all, the sudden appearance of a colossus that gathered the forces of the 7 nations in this sea region would affect them greatly. At such an important moment, the players would not be negligent. They were all carrying big and small bags. According to the Sea King, everyone who came was a guest. Naturally, he would send someone with a high status. The sea merchants, sea pirates, sea ancient clans, deep-sea forces, and so on. The atmosphere in the Mansion of the Dead was unprecedentedly high. Everyone was waiting for the final moment to arrive. The armies of the 7 nations stood by the coast. It seemed like they were protecting the guests, but in fact, they were showing off their power to the outside world. Whoosh! Guyu bids for the Sun and Moon Mountain. 420,000 soul coins. At this moment, the big screen in the sky dispersed with the wind like a smokescreen. It turned into the background of many residences floating in the sky, and the name of the guild was written on each of the residences. Master of the Great Devil Island, please come in. These warships looked very majestic. They shone with a metallic luster under the sun, like sharp blades on the sea. Guyu and his companions were not the only tycoon players in the game. At this stage of the game, there were many new players with high paywalls. Their bidding gave Guyu and his companions a lot of pressure. As time passed, the players' desire for residences was beyond Lu Wu's imagination. At this moment, even the cheapest residences were bidding at a terrifying 100,000 soul coins. The popular residences were bidding at 390,000 soul coins. Sha Shui smiled again as he thought it was the arrival of Superforce. He waited for the warships to approach. This was because these productions represented an extremely huge workload. Representative of the Cheonyo Marauders, please come in. Compared to the depth of the Void Ocean, the seawater of the Kowloon Ocean was emitting a soft light blue light. There were also sparkling blue plants floating on the surface of the ocean. It looked magnificent, like a fairy tale ocean wonderland. Not only was the map huge, but there were no repetitions of scenes. All of them were self-contained. Even mini-game guilds and gaming platform guilds like Wu Guai actively participated in it. This news undoubtedly ignited the passion in their hearts again. Some of them were carrying with spirit wine, some were carrying delicately prepared meat, and some were hugging spiritual fishes. All of them were beaming, ready to visit the Sea King to send him congratulatory gifts and cheer him on at the same time. Representative of the deep-sea fishmen race, please come in. Of course, there's also a group of forces that were originally attached to the 7 nations. They wanted to continue to pledge allegiance to the Mutane nation after it was established. One by one, the battleships and Spectre ships sailed out of the coast. The following battleships followed suit and headed towards Xinmo Island in the Kowloon Ocean under the lead of Old Turtle. Because today was a very important day for them. Happiness is so simple. Sha Shui let out a sigh as he faced dozens of forces. He lifted his head and looked afar. To his surprise, he realized that an enormous fleet was approaching them slowly. As the ruler of a nation, he was actually sent by the Sea King to be a welcoming envoy, which made him feel ashamed. Halfway through the auction, the madness was still going on. When the bell signaling the end of the event rang, the shouts of the members of the guilds who had won the bid echoed in the sky above the Mansion of the Dead. This price was already higher than many of the top mansions in real life, but the players didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Instead, they felt that it was only natural. The players of the underworld were in an uproar. On the second day after the auction for the encampment ended, players flocked to the Lioli coast. Winning the encampment meant that their development would be in the lead. It also meant that they would have their own home in the game and a bright future ahead of them. Server announcement. This encampment auction has ended. The next encampment auction will be held after the individual battle ladder tournament. It was inevitable that the blood pressure would rise. At this moment, the players were surprised to find that the seawater on both sides of the sea was perfectly separated. Representatives of the Jade Sea Commerce, please come in. This battle would determine whether they could stand out among the players. Many players who thought that they were superior in terms of skills rubbed their palms together. They were eager to make a name for themselves after this battle. The eyes of the players in the Mansion of the Dead were bloodshot. They stared at the big screen in the sky like gamblers. Every time their guild was on the leaderboard, they would cheer and shout. Lu was no longer surprised by the players' crazy brain tricks. He could already imagine the expression of the Sea King when the time came. This kind of map was completely different from the sandbox games in the market that automatically generated maps according to the template. After all, no one knew when the next batch of encampment auctions would be held. The earlier they got it, the earlier they would have priority in development. No guild would want to miss it. Without the top-up system, they had witnessed the condition of all the items in Battle Online. In their opinion, as long as Battle Online did not go bankrupt, they would not lose anything by bidding for it. As for the guilds that failed in the auction, Lu Wu naturally comforted them. He immediately made another announcement. The king of Sha Shui, who was standing by the coast to welcome the guests, was gritting his teeth in hatred. The players were well prepared. They even used spiritual materials to hire a few old tortoises from the Void Ocean as their guides. After all, they had never been to the Kuelong Ocean. The war fog on the map had not been opened yet. It would take a lot of effort for them to find it themselves. The scene was unusually lively. The 8 guardian spirits stood on both sides of the island to welcome the guests. A blue carpet made of an unknown material led from the coast to the inside of the island. Now, even if Battle Online's official announcement said that this game had been researched for decades, the players would believe it. After speeding up for nearly half a day, the players finally arrived at the border between the Void Ocean and the Kuelong Ocean. Although the weak and cowardly king of Sha Shui was extremely dissatisfied, he had no choice but to obey the Sea King's order. VIP, VIP. I wonder which force in the ocean owns such a huge fleet of warships. Surprisingly, the other kings did not object to this. Instead, they unanimously pointed their spear at him, hoping that he would go. At this moment, the players could not help but exclaim at the horror of the team behind Battle Online. The game notifications kept ringing, stimulating their hearts. Yi Shui, bid for Mountain Lake. 380,000 soul coins. Looking at the cheering players below, Lu Wu smiled in relief. Wu Guoi bid for Twilight Coast. 390,000 soul coins. The players loved such an opponent who worked so hard to become stronger. Following the guidance of the old tortoise, the players changed their direction a few times while enjoying the scenery in the Kuelong Ocean. When the words Shinma Island appeared on the map, they knew that they had arrived at the destination. Chun Ziyu bid for Autumn Maple. 320,000 soul coins. At this time, countless forces had gathered on Shinma Island. Many players immersed themselves in learning from the expert players in the forum every day. They trained their skills hard in the game just for the start of the individual competition. This was met with another round of cheers. Whether they could win the territory depended on the last half an hour. A few veteran guild leaders, such as Lu Zhan and Yuhan, could not hold on any longer. They gave up the bidding for the popular territories and chose to compete with the relatively high-priced ones. The game notifications kept popping up, and the price continued to rise. This was only the map. Each super-intelligent NPC and enemy monsters had to be calculated separately. All of this could not be completed without time. At this time, a large number of ships were anchored by the Lioli coast, waiting for the arrival of their guild members. Such a high price made Lu Wu tremble. This round of harvesting had surpassed all the previous events. The bidding slowed down in the last 10 minutes, but it was still crazy. The price would jump in less than 10 seconds, even for the most popular territories. Their old rival, the Sea King, was going to build a nation. The island was huge on the map, at least 2/3 of Beiki's size. Instead of calling it an island, it was more like a piece of land on the sea. Excitement, indescribable excitement. Chapter 231. As the huge fleet docked, Sha Shui quickly went forward to welcome them. At that moment, a gangway extended down from the warships. The players appeared and went ashore one after another. Sha Shui could not tell which force they were from. He thought for a while and asked, "May I know which force you are from?" The players were stunned when they heard him. Lu Chai, who was the leader, waved his hand and said, "We're old friends of the Sea King. There's no need to be so courteous. We're here to congratulate him on establishing a nation. All right, please come in." Although he still did not know which force they were from, Sha Shui dared not neglect them since they were old friends of the Sea King and had such a huge force. He gave his subordinates a look and personally led the way for Lu Chai and the rest. They walked along the blue carpet towards the inner island. Along the way, the players were carrying big and small bags, and their faces were filled with joy. Sha Shui was secretly delighted. The few forces that came to welcome them previously were obviously not sincere. However, this huge force came with sincerity. This might be a great help to the establishment of a new nation. After all, their interests were already aligned with the Sea King. It was a good thing for them that the Sea King had such a powerful friend. There were many players who came this time. However, the scale of the nation-building ceremony was huge. The interior was already filled with all kinds of delicacies from the sea and a wide variety of drinks. It was more than enough to accommodate the players. The players' eyes lit up when they saw such a rich feast. They did not expect to get such a good meal by gifting them. "Dear guests, please enjoy the delicacies here. I'll inform the king of your arrival," said Sha Shui with a smile. Lu Chai initially wanted to stop him. However, he let him be after thinking about it. They would meet sooner or later anyway. He only hoped that the Sea King would not throw a tantrum. After all, they were really sincere this time. They did not want to cause any trouble at all. After Sha Shui left, Lu Chai shouted in the live chat channel, "Let's go. We'll congratulate the Sea King when he comes out." The players immediately dispersed and started feasting on the foreign world's delicacies. Compared to the food in the real world, the food here that was made with different ingredients was novel to them. They ate happily and enjoyed it. In the central area of the island, in the palace that originally belonged to Tian Kuan Nation, the Sea King was sitting on the throne as he listened to the lords below him report on their respective resources and territories. From this, he estimated the strength of the unified forces and planned the future development path. As a former overlord of the Void Ocean, he was naturally well-versed in this. At this moment, Sha Shui walked towards the Sea King and said respectfully, "You're right. King, it's about time. We can start the nation founding ceremony." Sha Shui then spoke again. "Just now, a huge fleet arrived. They said that they're your old friends, but they did not tell me who they are." The Sea King frowned when he heard that. During the period when he was ruling the Void Ocean, although he had many alliances, he never had any so-called friends, so he was very puzzled. "Are you here to provoke me?" Upon hearing that, Sha Shui's expression changed. "Monarch, these forces are definitely not here to provoke us. They even brought many gifts with them. Although I didn't check what they brought with them, I can see that each of them had a gift in their hands. It's obvious that they are well prepared. This is not something that a provocative force would do." Upon hearing that, the Sea King relaxed his furrowed brows. He then nodded, stood up, and walked towards the venue of the banquet. Since he could not figure it out, he would go and see for himself. He welcomed his friends, but he would not be courteous to his enemies. This was his home ground. He did not believe that any force would dare to be so arrogant. Seeing the Sea King walk down from the throne, the 7 kings below quickly made way for him. After the Sea King walked past, they followed behind him. As the Sea King arrived at the venue of the banquet, the ocean band that was already prepared started playing. A red carpet instantly formed under the Sea King's feet and extended as he walked. At the same time, balls of water element cannons exploded in the sky. Crystal clear blue raindrops fell, embellishing the Sea King's noble image. The players who saw this scene had an interesting expression on their faces. "Cool, that's how a boss should be. He's indeed the most popular boss. Well done. That's great. The Sea King who worked hard has finally grown a step further. Congratulations." At this moment, the players felt that the Sea King was very pleasing to the eye today. He was full of charm. In their hearts, there was a sense of satisfaction as if they were witnessing the growth of chives. All of them had a gratified smile on their faces. "My lord, the force that I'm talking about is them." Sha Shui led the Sea King to the golden throne that was specially prepared for him and pointed at Lu Chai and the other players. Upon hearing that, the Sea King looked in the direction that Sha Shui was pointing at. However, his face immediately turned pale. How could he not recognize these creatures? If it were not for them, he would still be the overlord of the Void Ocean. He would not have to go through so much trouble to rebuild his force. Furthermore, wasn't all of his efforts to take revenge on them? The Sea King clenched his fists tightly. He could no longer hold back his anger. At the same time, he wanted to give Sha Shui a good beating. How dare he lead this troublesome force here? He should have annihilated them at the coast. It seemed like the ceremony was not going to be going smoothly. The Sea King's eyes gradually turned cold. At this moment, Lu Chai said something in the regional voice chat. Instantly, all the seated players stood up and raised their wine glasses to the Sea King. Congratulations, Sea King! The number of players that arrived was huge. Their roars were full of vigor, scaring the other guests at the scene. Many of the forces that came to check on the situation looked gloomy. They did not expect the Sea King to not only control the 7 nations, but also have such a powerful ally. This was not good for them. On the other hand, the Sea King was furious. To him, the actions of the players were undoubtedly a provocation. However, today was an important day. If a battle broke out here, the ceremony would not be held today. After all, the number of players that came was not small. I like to see what you guys are going to do. The Sea King snorted coldly at the players. He flicked his sleeves and sat on the golden throne. The nation founding ceremony begins. Sha Shui shouted at the top of his lungs. Immediately, the 8 nation spirits walked to the back of the Sea King and raised their weapons. From today onwards, Sha Shui Nation, Black Hell, Lan Di will be merged into a new nation, Mu Te. The new king, Mu Hai, will be the ruler, the Sea King, with heaven and earth as the witness and the sun and moon as the witness. The long announcement made the players feel sleepy. Compared to that, they were more interested in the food in front of them. They could not help but continue eating. The Sea King's face turned pale. To him, the players' actions were full of provocation. However, he held back and did not explode because he was ready to kill all the forces of Beiki here after the ceremony to establish his authority. After reading the announcement, the Sea King stood up slowly and spoke to everyone. From today onwards, the new nation of Mu Te is established. Everyone who comes is a guest. I wonder if anyone is willing to form an alliance with Mu Te. The Deep-Sea Mermaid Clan is willing to form an alliance with Mu Te. The Aurora Trade Union is willing to form an alliance with Mu Te. The Endless Sea Island is willing to form an alliance with Mu Te. As soon as the Sea King's voice fell, some of the forces that were willing to form an alliance quickly expressed their flattery. Seeing so many forces trying to curry favor with him, the Sea King smirked and was about to speak again. At this moment, a man wearing heavy armor and carrying a giant hammer on his back who was sitting not far away from him slowly stood up. Sea King, why did you come to our Kowloon Ocean instead of being the leader of the Void Ocean? Do you think that your territory is not big enough, so you want us to share it with you? As soon as he said that, the crowd was in an uproar. These words were undoubtedly a direct provocation. The Sea King's face immediately turned ferocious. He knew the man in front of him. He was Lang Tai, the second son of Langya Island, one of the 3 strongest forces in the Kowloon Ocean. He was also considered a top figure in the Kowloon Ocean. However, the Sea King did not care about this. He was looking for someone to establish his authority. Seeing that this person did not give him any face, it was exactly what he wanted. However, just as the Sea King was about to make his move, he realized that the forces of Beiki suddenly stood up one by one. Smack! 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 The sound of wine glasses being smashed could be heard continuously. Mother **Ker, what are you doing? **CKU. Son of a B **TCH. Do you have the right to speak here? How dare you oppose the establishment of the Sea King? Are you looking down on us? Mother **Ker, if it wasn't for the Sea King, we would have **ked you up right now. Shut up. Don't be so arrogant just because you're wearing armor. If you dare to spout nonsense again, I'll let you know what a natural disaster is today. Who are you? Apologize to me, or I'll beat you up until you get experience points. Which force are you from? Tell me your name. Do you have a death wish? Has the Sea King established a nation offended you? Also, what do you mean by dividing the territories equally? So what if the Sea King wants all of your territories? Do you believe me when I say that I'll beat your head off? Big Turtle, I advise you to be kind. You're nothing in our eyes. If the Sea King fails to establish a nation today, we'll ask the great Demon King to dig up your family's ancestral graves and refine them all. Then, we'll make them dance in front of you. Seeing the players pointing at Lang Tai and scolding him, the Sea King was completely dumbfounded. Just now, he thought that the players stood up to support Lang Tai. He did not expect them to point their fingers at Lang Tai, as if they were defending him. The Sea King fell into deep thought. Lang Tai's face turned pale. He turned around abruptly, grabbed the giant hammer on his back, and faced the players. Which force are you from? How dare you provoke me? Langya Kingdom. Do you want to be annihilated? The players were instantly enraged when they heard him. Idiot, west of the Void Ocean, Baiki Force. I've given you the address. Please arrange a fight. Come, we'll wait for you in Baiki. You're a coward if you don't come. Annihilate us? Mother of Asterisk, how arrogant. Those who wanted to annihilate us were all annihilated by us. I'll remember you, Langya Kingdom. You're done for. Go back and eat well, then wait for your death. If it wasn't for the Sea King establishing a nation today, we'd go out and fight right now. F***CK, your ancestors. The player's scolding made Lang Tai's body tremble. He immediately raised his hammer. Langya Kingdom. Here. The Langya Island guards were sitting around, all stood up. Give me. How dare you? Whoever dares to make a move is my enemy. Let's see who dares to make a move. Hei Sui took a step forward and looked at Lang Tai coldly. Chapter 232. Faced with Hei Sui's threat, Lang Tai felt suffocated. After running amok in the Kolong Ocean for so many years, it was the first time someone dared to point at his nose and scold his ancestors. He could not take it lying down. However, the military force he brought was not enough to fight against the Sea King. He could only look at the players with a pale face. His heart was boiling with anger. He then turned to look at the Sea King. Sea King, what do you mean by this? Are you going to protect them? The Sea King was about to speak when the players went berserk again. Mother of Asterisk, who are you threatening? Don't be afraid, Sea King. We'll help you destroy him after you finish building your nation. Protect your ass. Come on, let's go out and have a fight. You wicked thing, do you know how hard it is for the Sea King? You really deserve to die. You have no sympathy at all, and you're still trying to make trouble. I can't take it anymore. Let's go out and have a fight. To the players, the Sea King was the best leak they had been waiting for. Since Lang Tai dared to cause trouble for the Sea King, it meant that he was going against them. They were so angry that they almost flipped the table and started fighting. The surrounding forces were deep in thought when they saw the situation. To them, it was obvious that the Sea King had befriended a powerful force, and they were here to support him. Their evaluation of the Sea King's forces increased. Meanwhile, the Sea King was completely dumbfounded. He even suspected that he had remembered wrongly. They were supposed to be arch-enemies, and he had annihilated many of their clansmen. What was going on now? Something was not right, especially when they looked at me in a strange way. They seemed to be gratified. The Sea King fell into deep thought again. All right, come out if you want to die. Lang Tai was furious as he walked towards the coast with his hammer. The players were not afraid. They put down their gifts and followed him. Today, they wanted to teach Lang Tai a lesson and let him know what the fourth disaster was and what an evil force was. Obviously, none of the forces expected the nation founding ceremony to turn out like this. However, they were more curious about which force these savage creatures belonged to. How dare they provoke Langya Island? Therefore, they followed them to the coast to see who they could rely on. Monarch, should we send troops to support them? Sha Shui quickly asked the Sea King when he saw the situation. Help who? I would rather help Langya Island than them. The Sea King said as he slammed the table. Sha Shui. Hei Sui. Tian Cohen. When the other country rulers heard this, they were stunned as well. They did not understand what was going on. Was the Sea King really that cold-blooded? His friend was willing to put his life on the line for him, but the Sea King was actually thinking of helping the enemy. It was truly disappointing. Follow me, let's go take a look. After thinking about it, the Sea King decided to go and take a look. Thus, he levitated into the air, and the kings beside him immediately followed. At this moment on the coast, Lang Tai was the first to arrive with his men. Following his long howl, countless sea monsters emerged from the sea and began to climb onto the shore. At this time, the players also arrived. Idiot, do you want to fight on land or on the sea? It's up to you, Lu Chai asked. After being insulted again, Lang Tai felt like he was about to explode. He took a deep breath and said, "This is the Sea King's territory. Let's fight on the sea." Then, Lang Tai waved his hand, and the Langya guard behind him started climbing the sea monsters and went into the sea. Then, Langya looked at the players with a provocative gaze. However, he was immediately stunned. This was because the players had boarded a large number of warships. Initially, he thought that the warships that were docked here belonged to the various visiting forces. He did not expect them to be the players. This made Langya's heart skip a beat. He had a bad feeling about this. How could a force with such a large fleet be weak? Moreover, they were only participating in the nation founding ceremony. These warships that came to watch the ceremony were definitely only a part of the force. Langya was shocked by his own guess. However, he was already in a dilemma. With so many forces present, if he did not fight, he would be embarrassing Langya Island. He could only grit his teeth and fight. However, he did not intend to fight on the sea. He knew the power of the Spectre warship. If they were to fight on the sea, this huge fleet could completely crush him. Therefore, he turned around and gave his subordinates a look. Then, the sea monsters climbed onto the shore again. At this time, the forces that followed behind also saw the players' fleet of warships. They were all surprised. They knew how much it cost to build the Spectre warship. Obviously, they were shocked by the players' extravagance. At this moment, their evaluation of the Sea King rose again. At this time, the Sea King also arrived. He looked at the fleet of warships with hatred in his eyes. How could he not be familiar with these warships? Back then, these creatures used these warships to rob him of a large number of treasures and spiritual materials. Wait, there's a problem with our sea monsters. Now let's fight on land. Lang Tai shouted at the players as he came ashore. Upon hearing this, the players raised their middle fingers at Lang Tai at the same time. Trash will always be trash. You're already afraid. You're really weak. Look at you. You're not even fit to carry the Sea King's shoes. How dare you provoke us? How courageous. This is a resounding slap in the face. Where's your arrogance just now? It's so embarrassing to fight with you. You're the first boss that requires us to go easy on him. How embarrassing. The player's mockery made Lang Tai's face turn pale. However, he knew that he would definitely lose if he started a naval battle. He could only grit his teeth and bear with it. Cut the crap. I'm asking you if you dare to do it. Upon hearing this, the players laughed. There was nothing in this world that they did not dare to do. Even if the gods were here, they would still beat them up if they dared to talk to them like this. Hence, the players jumped down from the warships one by one and began to gather at the shore. Sea King, will it be all right for us to destroy this place? Please don't be angry, Lu Chai said to the Sea King with a smile before the battle began. However, the Sea King only snorted coldly as if he had acquiesced. Come on, it's about time. Let's fight. If we don't smash your head today, we're not called natural disaster. Kill them. Lang Tai, who was scolded again, roared furiously. Instantly, the Langya army behind him began to charge forward. Kill them. Following Lu Chai's words, the players also charged forward. The battle was on the verge of breaking out. The spectating forces immediately focused their attention, wanting to see which force would win. However, they were soon stunned. The strength of these players was not as strong as they had imagined. Although they were 10 times weaker in terms of numbers, the combat strength of the Langya army was obviously stronger than the players. Monarch, the situation is not looking good. Do you need help? Sha Shui saw the situation and quickly said to the Sea King, the combat strength of the Langya Island is no match for them. The Sea King said coldly as he looked at the two forces that were fighting. He was very familiar with the combat style of these forces. These creatures were people who did not care about their lives. If they were to fight a protracted battle with them, their mentality would collapse sooner or later. Hei Sui and the others who were beside him felt a chill in their hearts when they heard the Sea King saying that he would not help them. They felt that the Sea King was too cold-blooded. At the shore, Lang Tai was overjoyed when he saw that his side had gained the upper hand. He was even prepared to go back dejectedly. However, he did not expect these creatures to be so weak when it came to land battles. He was glad that he had chosen to fight on land. Lang Tai's confidence was boosted. He believed that these creatures would soon surrender under the slaughter of the Langya army. However, as time passed, Lang Tai felt that something was wrong. He realized that these creatures really did not care about their lives. They did not defend themselves at all. They were fighting with their lives on the line and would slash their opponents before they died. Moreover, these creatures' abilities were very strange. They could heal, control, assassinate, fight head-on, and many other forms. What was even more unbelievable was that these creatures would not even look at their comrades when they fell. They continued to attack like crazy demons. The Langya army was getting tired as the battle went on. However, the creatures in front of them were still full of vigor. The craziness of these creatures made the hearts of the forces tremble. To them, this battle was just a battle of pride. It was just a formality like a martial arts competition where one side would admit defeat. However, this did not seem to be the case. Looking at the way the players were fighting, it did not look like a competition at all. It was really a battle of life and death. The more they fought, the more tired and terrified they became. At this moment, Lang Tai really wanted to curse. Do you guys want to die? However, the players were indeed reckless. In their eyes, death was just a 3-hour wait. What they wanted to do now was to slap Lang Tai's face until it was rotten. When the battle went on for the 3rd hour, Lang Tai realized that the Langya army on his side was fearful and their combat power had dropped significantly. In particular, the constant deaths of their comrades had given them great stimulation. This made Lang Tai know that the battle could not continue. There was a huge difference in the mentality of both sides. If the battle continued, the Langya army would be wiped out sooner or later. Hence, he quickly shouted, "Admit defeat! Admit defeat!" How could the players agree with Lang Tai's decision to admit defeat? This was because they realized that the Langya army gave a lot of experience and soul coins. If they were to give up now, where would they get the soul coins and experience from? Hence, the players chose to ignore it and continued to advance. When Lang Tai shouted to admit defeat, the morale of the Langya army collapsed. At this moment, the players attacked fiercely again. They could not unleash their combat power. Their mentality had completely collapsed. Stop! We admit defeat. We don't have a grudge against each other, right? Lang Tai saw this and quickly shouted again in an attempt to stop the players' attack. I'll level up after killing 3 more. You said that you admit defeat. Reject, 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 admit defeat, and continue. F*CK. I haven't had enough soul coins yet. What do you mean by stopping when we're having fun? Reject. Idiot, do you think you can stop just because you said so? Who do you think you are? Go to hell. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. The players immediately expressed their refusal to reconcile. At the same time, they raised their weapons again and charged toward the Langya army while roaring. Seeing this scene, the foreheads of the various forces broke out in a cold sweat. At this moment, the players had been marked as extremely dangerous by them. Many of their comrades had died, but they were still shouting, "Don't stop having fun," and "I'm just getting excited." To them, this was not a battle at all. It was simply a carnival of a bunch of lunatics. There were a few forces that were known as the belligerent clan in the Kuelong Ocean. However, after witnessing the craziness of the players, they had the urge to cover their faces. This was really a belligerent clan. Not only did they not care about the lives of their comrades, but they also did not care about their own lives. They just wanted to fight. The behavior of the players had completely changed the worldview of the various forces. Chapter 233. In fact, The battle had already ended when Lang Tai had admitted defeat. The Langya army had completely lost their will to fight. They could only defend against the players' ferocious attacks. As for the players, there was no need to mention how excited they were. If they caught one, they would kill one. If they caught two, they would kill two. Their soul coins and experience were flying. Do you really want to start a war with Langya Island? Lang Tai could only threaten them as he faced the players' relentless attacks. However, the players would not fall for it. What a joke. It would be best if they started a war. It would be best if they would not stop until all of them were dead. Hence, they fought even more ferociously. Retreat! Retreat! Lang Tai could only shout for retreat as his threats were ineffective. However, at this moment, the Sea King's eyes flashed coldly as he snorted. The Mute army, 7 nations allied army, on both sides of the island stepped forward at the same time, blocking their way of retreat. Seeing this, the players' faces were filled with smiles. As expected, the Sea King was generous enough to block the way for them. Now, they could kill to their heart's content. Sea King, what do you mean by this? Lang Tai roared at the Sea King. The Sea King sneered, but did not bother with him. Lang Tai dared to provoke him today, so he had no intention of letting him go. Moreover, after some consideration, he was prepared to start a war with one of the 3 major forces, Langya Island, to establish his might. After defeating their army, he would incorporate them and expand his own forces. Hence, he was naturally not afraid of Lang Tai's threat. After the massacre continued for a while, Lang Tai's face turned ferocious. His gaze swept past the players and stopped at the Sea King. Sea King, just you wait. I will inform my brother of what you have done today. Wait for the war. As soon as he finished speaking, Lang Tai's body floated in the air as if he wanted to escape. Seeing this, the players were instantly displeased. If the biggest boss ran away, they would lose a lot of their loot. Suddenly, intensive skills were thrown towards the sky in an attempt to stop him. However, at this moment, the Sea King's eyes flashed with a murderous glint. He extended his hand and grabbed forward. As Lang Tai was horrified, a black whirlpool appeared in front of him. A pitch-black, giant hand stretched out from it and grabbed him. Ah! As the black palm tightened, Lang Tai let out a painful scream. Since you said that you want to start a war, why should I keep you alive? As the Sea King chuckled, he squeezed his black palm, causing Lang Tai's eyes to bulge and his body to contort. After the black arm disappeared, Lang Tai's body fell to the ground like a pile of mud, lifeless. What the hell? He's dead? Oh my god, such a heavy loss, my heart aches. F***CK, this is too much. Our spoils of war. Damn it. My impression of you has dropped. Sad, this is ours. Seeing that Lang Tai had been crushed to death, the players pounded their chests in grief. This scene once again dumbfounded all the forces present. You didn't look so sad when your comrades died. You were all smiling. Why did you look so sad when the enemy died? Moreover, they could tell that the players' sadness was genuine and not feigned. Everyone's worldview was refreshed once again, and they were all stunned on the spot. After killing the rest of the Langya guards, the players walked toward the Sea King angrily. Sea King, what do you mean by this? You've crossed the line. We came here to congratulate you on establishing a nation, but look at how you repay us. Mother of Asterisker, how dare you steal our kills? Is this something a boss should do? The Sea King's expression was cold. Although he did not understand, he could tell that the members of the Baiki army were blaming him for taking action. Dear guest, don't be angry. Today is the day of establishing a nation. Come with me to the banquet. The banquet will continue. Sha Shui, who was beside the Sea King, wiped his sweat and quickly said. He had the same thought as everyone else, thinking that the players were blaming the Sea King for not letting them have their fun. Hence, he quickly tried to persuade them to ease the atmosphere. After all, from his point of view, this force was too powerful. He was already fantasizing about a bright future when he thought of joining their allied forces in the future. Hence, he had to treat them as a gift. Brothers, forget it. Anyway, the Sea King will compensate us in the future. Today is the day of the Sea King's nation. Let's treat it as a gift to him. All right, that's it. It's just losing a ghost general. Anyway, the Sea King can give us a dozen ghost generals and ghost kings in the future. Let's forget about this. All right then, but Sea King, what you did is wrong. You have to understand that. After hearing what Sha Shui said, the players thought about it and decided to let it go. After all, the Sea King was the biggest leak in their eyes. They did not care about the other losses, but the fact that the Sea King was still here meant that they would have unlimited soul coins and experience points. Hence, under the Sea King's cold stare, the players walked toward the banquet under Sha Shui's lead as if nothing had happened. After all, they had just finished a fight, and they felt that they had exhausted a lot of energy. It was time to replenish their energy. This time, the other forces looked at the players in a completely different way. There was admiration and admiration, but more than that, there was fear. After all, it was terrifying to be targeted by such a desperate force. They did not even need to think to know that they would not rest until one of them was dead. After this battle, all the forces that wanted to stir up trouble during the nation founding ceremony became quiet. They were afraid that if they said something wrong to the Sea King, they would be scolded by these forces and be forced to fight with their lives on the line. However, other than being afraid of the players and not wanting to be their enemy, the other forces also wanted to befriend them. After all, they were very envious of the Sea King for being able to form an alliance with such forces. Hence, all of them tried to curry favor with him. However, the players did not fall for it. From the players' point of view, everyone present was a future source of soul coins and experience points. Other than the Sea King, who was a growing leak, the rest of the leaks were worthless. They would be gone after a round of harvesting. Hence, they did not want to waste their emotions. The players' attitude made the forces that came to befriend them return in disappointment. However, He Sui, Tian Kun, Sha Shui, and the others were very happy to see this. This meant that only the Sea King was worthy of befriending them. Moreover, from the scene just now, it could be seen that this force valued relationships very much, and they were willing to challenge any enemy for their friends. With the support of such a force, the future of the Mute nation would definitely be prosperous. Looking at the smiles on the faces of Sha Shui and the others, the Sea King's mouth twitched. He was not an idiot. Although he did not understand why the Baiki army would help him, he had a feeling that they were up to no good. However, since they did not provoke him this time, the Sea King did not plan to make a move. In short, his priority was to expand the military power of the Mute army and incorporate the surrounding forces. Anyway, he was determined to take over Baiki. He had never forgotten the hatred from that battle. After this incident, the subsequent matters of the nation founding ceremony were carried out smoothly. The players were having a great time eating and drinking. After the ceremony ended, the players were ready to return to Baiki. However, before they left, the players collectively gave the Sea King a determined look and made a cheering gesture. Go for it. Witnessing this scene, the Sea King's mouth twitched. He did not feel good. He did not know why, but he just wanted to strangle them. Meanwhile, Sha Shui and the others saw the players off. After sending them to the ship, they waved goodbye with smiles on their faces and even said things like, "Come visit us often." Looking at Shinma Island that was gradually getting further away, the players had a satisfied expression on their faces. They felt that this trip was not in vain. Not only did they earn a lot of soul coins and experience points, but the food at the banquet was also very appetizing to them. It could be said that they were satisfied both physically and mentally. Chapter 234. Kuelong Ocean, Shimo Island. After the nation founding ceremony ended, the player army and various forces began to leave one after another. However, there was one player who did not leave with the rest and stay behind. He was Wang Damong of the Great Dragon Guild. He was supposed to return with the guild members after the banquet ended. However, he had too much to drink and accidentally found a cave in a dense forest while he was relieving himself. From the outside, there was a faint white glow in the cave. After spending a lot of time on the forum, Wang Damong knew that there were opportunities everywhere in this world. Therefore, he walked into the cave with excitement in his heart. In the end, he found a huge piece of white jade in the cave, and a beautiful lady was sitting cross-legged on top of the jade. Under the flickering white light, a graceful figure could be vaguely seen. Her long black hair was casually tied up with an elegant silver hairpin. There was not a single trace of rouge on her face. She wore a bright yellow dress and a green silk belt around her waist. Her slender figure was instantly revealed, and she was extremely flirtatious. Looking at the lady's beautiful face, Wang Damong felt that he was falling in love. She was too beautiful. Was this what it felt like to fall in love? With just a glance, Wang Damong had even thought of the name of their future child. However, the lady suddenly opened her eyes and glanced at Wang Damong. After noticing the infatuation on Wang Damong's face, her expression gradually turned cold. "Who are you? I'm just passing by." Noticing the anger on the lady's face, Wang Damong quickly raised his hands to show that he had no ill intentions. Just when the lady was about to continue speaking, her body trembled and she spat out a mouthful of black blood. Her body was wobbling. Upon seeing this, Wang Damong quickly went forward to help her. However, when he saw the lady's cold gaze, he immediately stopped in his tracks. "I have medicine." Noticing the lady's resistance, Wang Damong took a few steps back and took out many spiritual materials with healing effects from the channel. He then passed them to her tentatively. The lady did not answer. Her expression was still filled with vigilance. Obviously, she did not believe Wang Damong. After the two of them stared at each other for a while, the lady's tensed body suddenly relaxed, and she fell onto the jade platform. Upon seeing this, Wang Damong quickly went forward and opened the analysis menu. Tianlan, Early Stage Ghost General. Character details: the youngest daughter of the king of the Tianyu Nation, Tianquin. She was ambushed during a secret competition with Tianquin's other children for the position of king. She was severely injured. Character status: heavily injured, unconscious, worsening. Wang Damong was stunned when he saw this person's information. He did not expect this woman to be from the Sea King's camp. If that was the case, then they could be considered rivals in the future. However, Wang Damong couldn't bear to see the lady in front of him die just like that. However, this woman wasn't a player, so she couldn't drink the potion. He didn't have any medical skills either, so he was in a predicament. After some thought, Wang Damong had an idea and opened the livestream interface. After all, there were all kinds of talents among the players. He believed that with the strength of the players, they would definitely be able to settle this matter. "Help! Is there anyone with superb medical skills? Come and help me think of what to do." Wang Damong could be considered a veteran of the forum. When many people saw that it was his post, they immediately flooded in. Crayon_Shinchan. "Damn, Python, you're really something. Where did you find such a beautiful girl? Did you drug her? Shameless. Watermelon_Taro. I'm so jealous. Envy. Scammed 8,000 yuan. Brother Damong, are you here to show off to us? How enviable." 3 black lines appeared on Wang Damong's forehead when he saw the comments from the players in his live streaming channel. "Everyone, please think of a way. She's heavily injured, and because she's not a player, she can't drink any recovery potions. I have some spiritual ingredients here, but I don't know how to use them. She's unconscious and can't eat. Help me think of a way. In a live stream, eat my milk. I'm good at this. Take a look at the wounds on her body first. Then I'll teach you what to do next." Learning medicine can't save Beiki. That's right, you have to look at the wound first. Beiki's herb Shinnon. Only after confirming the illness can you prescribe the medicine. Brother Damong, do as I say. After reading the players' replies, Wang Damong turned to look at the unconscious woman. He scanned her from head to toe and discovered bloodstains on her shoulder, so he reached out with a trembling hand. He gently lifted a corner of the woman's collar, and 2 streams of blood immediately flowed down from her nose. In the live stream, Crayon_Shinchan. F***CK. I'm going to report you for involving pornography in your live streaming channel. This is too exciting, but I have to watch it first before reporting it. Nosebleeding. JPG. Assassin_Creed. Oh my god, you're so awesome. Brother Damong, you're testing the waters on the verge of death. I think you'll be the first player to be banned in this game. Nosebleeding. JPG. Dark_Magician. Damong, a life is more important. Do it. What are you waiting for? Nose bleeding. JPG. After reading the player's comments, Wang Demong gritted his teeth and pulled open the woman's collar, showing her snow-white left shoulder to the players. However, Wang Demong knew his limits. Other than her left shoulder, he didn't do anything too extreme. There was an obvious fist mark on the woman's left shoulder. The center of the mark had turned black, and black lines had formed around it like a spider web. They seemed to be wriggling and spreading to the surroundings. In the live stream, learning medicine can't save Beiki. Let's make sure she's not poisoned. Brother Damong, do you have a level 4 spiritual material, Mingwa herb? This spiritual material can detoxify. Grind it into powder and apply it to her wound. Wang Damong glanced at the comments in the live stream and nodded. He took out the Mingwa herb from the channel, crushed it according to the player's instructions, and applied it to the wound on the woman's left shoulder. The herb instantly sucked the black color out of the woman's wound at a speed visible to the naked eye. Wang Damong was pleasantly surprised. Beiki's 100 herbs Shinno. Continue. The color is much lighter, but it's still not enough. Do you have any Mingwa herb? If not, the level 2 spiritual material, poison-absorbing fruit, will do, but the effect will be much weaker. Medicine addict who studies medicine refinement. If you don't have enough detoxifying herbs, you can crush lava flower and mercury grass and mix them together. It will also have detoxifying effects. I've personally researched it. Seeing the player's replies, Wang Demong, who was worried that he didn't have enough Mingwa herb, finally felt relieved. He started to treat the woman according to their instructions. He had to admit that the players were very powerful. With their guidance, Wang Damong tried bit by bit to remove all the black poison from the woman's left shoulder. Then, he followed their instructions and squeezed out all the poisonous blood from the woman's left shoulder. After everything was done, Wang Damong wiped the sweat off his forehead and used analysis on the woman again. He was pleasantly surprised to find that the deteriorating condition on the woman had disappeared. Seeing that the treatment was successful, the players in the live stream channel cheered. In the live stream channel, Crayon_Shinchan, it's a success. Is there going to be a special show next? Laughing emoji. Don't think we don't know what you're thinking. If this is a severely injured male ghost general, I guarantee you'll stab him with your sword. If he doesn't die, you'll stab him a few more times. Laughing emoji, assassin_creed. Looks are really important in every world. A good-looking person is still popular in the game world. Sigh. Beiki's #1 Casanova. Brother Damong, I can see that you're moved. Do you need me to give you some advice? Wang Damong replied to Beiki's #1 Casanova. Really? Beiki's #1 Casanova replied to Wang Damong. Of course. You have to know that all the creatures in this game have feelings. They're not as rigid as before. Wang Damong replied to Beiki's #1 Casanova. Master, please enlighten me. I want to have an online relationship. Worship emoji. After seeing that Wang Damong really wanted to have an online relationship, the live stream channel was flooded with 666. Since Wang Damong had a good character and had helped many people before, a large number of players who called themselves Casanova took action. Each of them patted their chest and guaranteed that it would be a success. They even started to help him formulate the next plan of picking up girls before the woman woke up. Just now, they taught Wang Damong how to save people through live streams. Now, they were teaching Wang Damong how to pick up girls through live streams. The power of the players was once again demonstrated. The Void Ocean. On the Great Dragon Warship, Chun Ziyu and the others sat together, still discussing their gains and interesting things on Shima Island. At this moment, Shueli reached out to the right with a smile on her face. However, she hit nothing but air. Then, her expression changed. Huh, boss, where's Damong? Hearing this, Chun Ziyu looked around, and his expression gradually became awkward. He still remembered clearly that after the fight with the forces of Langya Island, Damong was still there. They even drank together at the banquet. How could he disappear? Could he have landed on Shima Island? This thought emerged in everyone's mind. Then, everyone fell into silence. Damong, can you hear me? After thinking for a while, Shueli whispered in the guild live channel. She could already imagine Wang Damang's resentful look at this moment. "Hello, Shueli, what's up?" Damang's rough voice came through. "Damong, you're not angry, are you?" Shueli continued laughing. "Why should I be angry? Why should I be angry?" "You're really angry." Shueli let out a long sigh. "Damong, are you going to kill yourself and come back? Or are we going to pick you up?" "No, no, no. You guys go back first. I have my own Spectre ship. I can come back by myself." "Damong, don't be angry. We didn't do it on purpose." Shueli still wanted to save Wang Damong, who might have a mental breakdown. After all, Wang Damong was one of the guild's founding elders. They felt somewhat guilty for forgetting about him. "I told you, I'm not angry. Damong, can a man be more magnanimous? It's not a big deal." Shueli whispered again. "Damong, I'll apologize to you this time. Come back first. Don't be childish." Chen Ziyu could not help but say. Wang Damong was speechless. "I really don't want to go." Chapter 235. Love at First Sight. That was Wang Damang's current state. He had already started to memorize the script while the girl was still unconscious. He was ready to capture the heart of the girl in front of him according to the plot drawn up by the players. Time passed. About 2 hours later, Tian Lan's eyelashes fluttered as she slowly opened her eyes. At this moment, she suddenly realized that Wang Damong was looking at her with concern. "Are you all right, Smack?" Just as Wang Damong was about to ask about her well-being, he was punched in the face and sent flying. She sat up slowly and glanced at Wang Damong, who was lying on the ground. Then, she looked at her slightly wet left shoulder. She was surprised to find that the numbness had faded and she had regained consciousness. She was stunned for a few seconds before she looked at Wang Damong again. The hostility in her eyes had faded a lot. Wang Damong was undoubtedly depressed at this moment. This was not going according to the script at all. Why'd I get beaten up right at the beginning? Are these Casanova guys reliable? He slowly got up from the ground and smiled awkwardly at Tian Lan. "Did you save me?" Tian Lan stared at Wang Damong. That's right. He had to admit it. At this moment, Tian Lan's face was slightly flushed, and she looked like she was struggling. Wang Damong was puzzled as he saw this scene. He subconsciously glanced at the live streaming channel. Bakey's #1 Casanova. Based on my years of experience in the field of love, her family's teachings are rather old-fashioned. She probably has to marry whoever sees her body. Laughing emoji, Crayon Shinchan. I saw it too. Laughing emoji, Assassin's Creed. I saw it too. Laughing emoji. Wang Damong felt that the players' frivolous comments were unreliable. However, he was still looking forward to it. Looking at the girl's face that was getting redder and redder, he subconsciously took a step closer. Puffed. Tian Lan spat out a pool of blood, and the redness on her face faded. Tian Lan felt much better after forcing out the clotted blood in her body. She then looked up at Wang Damong, who was still approaching her, and struck him with a backhand. Smack! Wang Damong was sent flying again. "Why are you so close to me?" Wang Damong, who was once again knocked to the ground, wanted to cry, but had no tears. Why didn't they follow the script again? This bunch of bullsh *T Casanova directors were useless. "Can you bring me out of here? If you can, I'll give you a Son of the Sea," Tian Lan said weakly as she looked at Wang Damong. Hearing the Son of the Sea, the players in the live streaming channel immediately typed 666, thinking Wang Damang's words. Son of the Sea was tempted. Why do you want to leave this place? Although he was tempted by the Son of the Sea, Wang Damong still asked subconsciously. Wang Damong was asked. Wang of Wang was very. "So if I stay here, only death awaits me," Tian Lan said with a cold expression. Thinking of the introduction on the Tian Lan analysis panel, although Wang Damong understood the reason, he still had doubts in his heart. "Then why didn't you tell your father?" "My father encourages the fight for the throne and believes that only those who have gone through hardships and stand out have the ability to inherit his position. So at this stage, even if I die, he won't intervene." Tian Lan's expression darkened. "I can take you away from here. I have the Spectre ship," Wang Damong replied, decisively after understanding the reason. Since the script was not working, he would bring the girl back to Bakey first and take his time with the rest. Tianlan was surprised when she heard that Wang Damong had the specter ship. Bring me away. When Wang Damong heard that, he took a step forward and tried to help Tianlan, but he was sent flying again. You walk in front, I'll follow you. Walk slowly. Wang Damong stood up again and felt helpless. Online love was too difficult. However, he still led Tianlan to the coast, plotting in his heart how to capture her heart next. While following behind Wang Damong, Tianlan's eyes were constantly scanning the surroundings, appearing extremely vigilant. When they were close to the coast of Xinmo Island, Tianlan felt relieved. They could escape soon. But at this moment, a figure dashed over from behind and blocked their way. Sister, where are you going? Didn't you swear to become the monarch of Tianyu Nation? Are you willing to leave? The leading charming girl giggled and stopped in front of Wang Damong and Tianlan. Tianlan's pupils shrank when she saw the girl. She knew something was wrong. Her second sister was here. She would never let her go when she was seriously injured. At this moment, another two figures appeared behind her. In an instant, they appeared on both sides of the charming woman. Big brother, second sister, let me go. I won't participate in the fight for power. The Sea King is the real monarch now. It's meaningless for us to kill each other, Tianlan said weakly as she looked at the three people in front of her. It's true that the Sea King is the monarch, but we're fighting for the position of the Eight Lords. You're very talented and a big threat. Do you think he'll let you go since we've joined forces to beat you up? The charming girl looked at Tianlan and smiled happily. A woman's heart is the most vicious. She's your sister. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? And you two men, if I had such a sister, I wouldn't be able to wait to dote on her every day. But you two actually wanted to kill her. Are you still human? Are you still, human, dragging the word? Wang Damong couldn't help but scold them. Who are you? This is none of your business. If you leave now, I'll spare your life. The charming girl's expression turned cold. She looked at Wang Damong with murderous intent. Leave. Don't worry about me. Tianlan looked at Wang Damong, who was pretending to be a hero. She wasn't moved at all. She only had one thought in her mind. He must be an idiot. No, I won't leave you behind, Wang Damong said solemnly. He turned around and thought that Tianlan would be touched. Instead, he saw Tianlan looking at him as if he was an idiot. This caused Wang Damong's imposing manner to collapse instantly. Damn it, this isn't how it is in the TV series. Wang Damong was a little discouraged after failing to act tough again. Since you want to die, I'll send you on your way. The charming girl smiled devilishly. She waved her hand, and a purple rainbow condensed in her hand. It then turned into a long spear. After sending off the last group of guests, Sha Shui, Tian Kun, He Sui, and the rest walked back with smiles on their faces. After the nation establishment ceremony, many forces had a drastic change in their attitude towards them. Even Langya Island, which they didn't dare to mess with, was defeated. It could be said that they had vented their frustrations. Now, they felt that being ruled by the Sea King might not be a bad thing. After all, the Sea King controlled the army of death. In addition to the military strength of the Seven Nations and the terrifying allied forces, they believed that even if they lost their supreme power, they could still become the overlord of the sea. They were full of confidence for the future. As they were chatting and walking back, Sha Shui suddenly looked into the distance. Tian Kun, they seem to be your children. Are they going to kill each other? Sha Shui was shocked. Don't worry about them. Let them be. This is what the descendants of Tianyu have to go through. That's how I became the monarch back then, Tian Kun said nonchalantly. He didn't even look at them. Oh, since you don't mind, well, looking at the two parties who were at daggers drawn, Sha Shui suddenly felt that something was wrong before he could finish his sentence. Wasn't that familiar figure a member of the Allied forces? He still had some impression of this person. He even drank quite a few cups with him during the banquet. At that moment, the charming girl had already struck with her spear. It turned into a rainbow and sped towards Wang Damong. What the F***CK? Stop! Don't! Sha Shui howled as he turned into a ray of light and left. Tian Kun and the rest also realized that something was wrong when they saw Sha Shui leaving with a drastic change of expression. They immediately turned their heads to look. Tian Kuen's blood pressure was about to drop when he saw what they saw. His own daughter was going to attack the allied forces that they were so proud of. This was really killing them. Stop! Oh! Tian Kuen howled as he turned into a ray of light and left. Naturally, Wang Demong wouldn't sit still as the purple spear was coming at him. He immediately pulled out his dagger and blocked the attack. However, Wang Damang's strength had not even passed the Ghost Commander trial. Naturally, he couldn't defend himself against an early-stage Ghost General opponent. He was instantly sent flying and his health was almost depleted. If the attack was any heavier, he would have been killed instantly. How dare you try to be a hero when you're so weak? The girl sneered. She waved her hand, and the purple spear flew back to her hand. She was about to throw it out again. At that moment, a few howls were heard from afar. Then, a figure suddenly appeared beside her. The charming girl's expression froze. Thinking that it was an ambush, she turned around immediately. However, she saw the muddy sole of a shoe getting closer and closer to her. Smack! To everyone's surprise, the charming girl was sent flying by Xia Shui's kick. Who's that? The charming girl who fell to the ground jumped up. She touched the muddy and shoe prints on her face and was furious. At that moment, a gust of wind came from the other side. She immediately turned around and saw the muddy sole of a shoe getting closer and closer to her. She was sent flying again. Tian Kuen heaved a sigh of relief after kicking his second daughter to the ground. He looked at Xia Shui with a grateful gaze. Meanwhile, Xia Shui wiped the sweat off his forehead with a look of lingering fear. The few of them had high hopes for the allied forces. If they made a mistake now, they felt that not only would the Sea King not forgive them, but they would also not be able to forgive themselves. A few more streams of light descended, and the kings who came later all had frightened expressions on their faces. At that moment, Tian Kuen looked at his two sons and glared at them. Tian Lan's eldest and second brother knelt on the ground without any hesitation. Although they didn't know what was going on, they knew that something big must have happened since the 7 rulers were here. No matter what, they had to kneel down first. At that moment, the charming girl leaped up again. The purple radiance of the spear in her hand intensified. However, to her horror, she soon discovered that the 7 great lords of the 7 great empires had all arrived. They were all surrounding the young man, their faces filled with concern. His 2 brothers were kneeling on the ground, their heads on the ground. What was going on? She wasn't the only one who was shocked. Even Tian Lan, who thought that Wang Damong was a fool, was stunned. Chapter 236. A smile appeared on Tian Kuen's face when he heard this. Wang Damang's heart melted when he saw that Tian Lan was willing to leave with him. He quickly nodded and brought Tian Lan to the shore. He then summoned his specter ship to Tian Lan's surprise. Young man, don't worry. As part of the allied army, I will definitely give you an explanation, Tian Kuen said. Father and the others seem to be afraid of you. Who exactly are you? Tian Lan asked. Haha, great. You will be this distinguished guest's maidservant from now on. Tian Lan's eyes widened when he heard how Wang Damong had robbed the Sea King's treasures several times, bullied the members of the Sea King Navy, annihilated the Sea King Navy in the end, and killed his undead army. He almost thought that Wang Damong was telling a story. Awesome. From Tian Kuen's point of view, he was the most involved in this matter. If he couldn't give an explanation, the other kings would not let him go. Hence, he was thinking about how to suppress this matter and give Wang Damong a satisfactory explanation. The live stream was still going on. The players who saw this scene were dumbfounded. Once again, Tian Lan did not play according to the script. Wang Damong felt that his heart was hurt. Tian Kuen once again bowed respectfully to Wang Damong as he watched Wang Damang's dumbfounded expression. Then, he grabbed his 2 sons and left with the other lords. However, the 7 kings were still worried. They knew the temperament of the allied army. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were stubborn. Tian Kuen continued to smile when he saw the shock on Wang Damang's face. Since my daughter belongs to you, you may take her away. As for my 2 sons, I will punish them for offending you when we return. You are too cruel. Wang Damong was shocked when he saw Tian Xin commit suicide without hesitation. You will have many opportunities to interact in the future. You will get to know each other better. The Sea King took a deep look at Tian Kuan and shook his head. Then, he turned around and walked into the back palace. After throwing the Son of the Sea to Wang Damong, Tian Lan stood up and walked out of the cabin. Xinamo Island, Mute Palace. Immediately, a white wave appeared and quickly moved into the distance, disappearing from sight in the blink of an eye. Tian Kuan's expression did not change as he looked at his second daughter, who was lying on the ground with hatred in her eyes. Instead, he turned to look at Wang Damong expectantly. Tian Kuan naturally noticed the adoration in Wang Damang's eyes and was delighted. As for Wang Damang's position in the banquet, it was obvious that his status was not ordinary. Do you know who they are? Wang Damang's worldview had been refreshed. She wanted to escape, but with the 7 great empires present, she knew that it was impossible for her to escape. Wang Damong, who thought he could start an online relationship, sat on the deck dejectedly. He held the Son of the Sea in his arms and looked at the direction where Tian Lan left. When he saw Wang Damong nod, Tian Lan looked very puzzled. Pada! Tian Xin, who had already realized that something was amiss, immediately knelt on the ground and looked at Tian Kuan in fear. One asked him to die, and the other died without hesitation. Looking at Tian Kuan, who was rooted to the ground, Sha Shui and the others had mixed feelings. After thinking for a while, they gave Tian Kuan a thumbs up. Although Wang Damong wanted to reprimand Tian Kuan, he hesitated after taking another look at Tian Lan. Father, I agree. Even if you're the king of Beiqi's son, I shouldn't treat you this way. Is there another reason? Tian Lan's face lit up when he heard that it was related to the Sea King. So you're the Sea King's guest. Looking at Tian Lan's shocked expression, Wang Damong simply told him about the glorious battle between the Beiqi army and the Sea King. No way, Tian Kuan said with trembling lips. Wang Damong looked down at the Son of the Sea in his hand and quickly followed him out. However, Tian Lan had already jumped into the water. At this moment, he looked at Tian Lan, whose face was pale. Yes, Your Majesty. Such a righteous act is naturally to ensure the future friendship between our 2 forces. As for my 2 sons, I will punish them properly to give the Alliance Army an explanation. Tian Kuan seemed to be very proud of what he had done. After the battle with Langya Island, many powerful forces went to befriend them, but they did not give them any face. A series of gasps could be heard. The rulers of the various countries felt that they had received a huge shock. Let's go, Tian Lan said while glaring at Wang Damong. Looking at the smile on Tian Kuan's face, Wang Damong really wanted to punch him. Did the Sea King not tell them about the player's origins? A thought came to Wang Damang's mind. Naturally, Wang Damong did not know what the 7 kings were thinking, so he looked very confused. Death like wind. I want to see what Brother Damong will choose. I will definitely agree. Laughing emoji. However, from the attitude of her father and the others, it seemed like what Wang Damong said was the truth. Poverty makes me spicy chicken. Is it too late to go now? Laughing emoji. After all, from Wang Damang's point of view, the 2 forces were already enemies after the banquet ended. However, their current attitude was obviously different. Crayon Shinchan. Awesome. He calmly let one of his daughters commit suicide and the other become a maid. What a great father. Tian Xin. How dare you attack our esteemed guest? After all, she knew how powerful the Sea King was. Then, Tian Kuan turned around and looked at his second daughter, who was holding a purple spear in her hand and standing there in a daze. Beiqi? The Void Ocean's territory? Tian Lan asked in surprise. Tian Lan listened to Wang Damong talking about how they used to bully the Sea King. Esteemed guest, your second daughter has offended you. She has committed suicide. Are you satisfied? Wait, you said that you let your second daughter commit suicide as an apology and gave your younger daughter to him as a maid? My Sea King Navy was also annihilated by them. If it wasn't for them, I would still be the overlord of the Void Ocean. Therefore, they are my biggest enemies. The Sea King added in the end to inform them of the hatred between him and the players. Esteemed guest, Tianlan is my youngest daughter. This incident was my fault. As an apology, how about I give my daughter to you as a maid? Wang Damong was dumbfounded. Damn it, are you still human? This is too exciting. Now that we've left Shinma Island, I'll give you the Sea King's son that I promised you. We're even now. The crisis of breaking up the alliance was temporarily resolved. What happened to being a maid? She ran away just like that? My identity? A member of the Beiki army. Wang Damong answered honestly since he planned to bring Tianlan back. They're the Beiki army, the force that I said we must destroy. Tian Kuan and the others were curious. Although they had been in contact several times, they still did not know which force the allied forces belonged to. Are you still human? Tianlan was shocked, and her mind was in a mess. She could not accept the fact that a fool like Wang Damong had such a powerful force behind him. At that time, when Wang Damong saw that the virtual reality helmet was broken, he picked up a broom and fought with his mother for 300 rounds. After a period of silence, Tianlan suddenly raised her head and took out a blue fruit from her waist pocket. She passed it to Wang Damong. As for kinship, the Tianyu clan did not have much affection for their children. Otherwise, they would not have been forced to kill each other in order to ascend the throne. Hiss, there's no need to explain. It's an unforgivable sin for you to almost kill an esteemed guest. However, you're my daughter, so I'll let you leave with dignity. After half an hour of sailing, the atmosphere in the ship was a little heavy. Neither of them spoke. Wang Damong could not help but shudder if he were to judge by the Tian Kuan monarch's family rules. He would have died a few hundred times by now. Tian Xin looked miserable. His hand that was holding the spear was trembling. Monarch, what do you mean by awesome? Tian Kuan was shocked. The Sea King naturally would not say that it was a term he learned from the players. Before Wang Damong could speak, Tianlan spoke first. Maybe it has something to do with the Sea King. After all, we're old friends with him. Watermelon_Taro. My worldview was refreshed when I met a retarded clan on the Devouring Island. This time, it's even more awesome. I'm impressed. Hey. After his two sons stood up, Tian Kuan spoke to Wang Damong again. Esteemed guest, we still have something to report to the monarch. We'll take our leave for now. Wang Damong's expression changed when he heard the word esteemed guest. We might be on good terms with the Sea King now, but we'll have to fight him sooner or later. The 7 monarchs had mixed feelings about this force. What the F***CK? Where's the trust between humans? Didn't you agree to it just now? Are they really father and daughter? Tian Kuan suddenly recalled his childhood. Back then, he loved to play games and esports, but his grades were always poor. His mother was so angry that she smashed his virtual reality helmet and beat him with a broom. As he spoke, Tian Kuan turned around and glared at his 2 sons who were kneeling on the ground. Follow me back. The Sea King's expression became more and more interesting as he listened to Tian Kuan and the others. The 7 monarchs heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that Wang Damong did not suffer any serious injuries. After both of them boarded the ship, Wang Damong was already fantasizing about his beautiful future. The Sea King almost laughed when he heard that. Then, he gave Tian Kuan a thumbs up. Awesome. Assassin_Creed. I'm pounding my chest. We've already left. If I had known earlier, I would have stayed there and asked them to give me a few more. Tian Xin slowly raised his purple spear and glared at his father with a venomous gaze. Then, the spear turned into a purple stream of light and slashed his neck. His body collapsed to the ground. Tian Xion's heart trembled when she saw Tian Kuan's cold gaze. Then, her face turned ashen. Father, I didn't know. Everything I did was in accordance with the clan's rules. I didn't do anything wrong. She knew that she had no chance of survival since Tian Kuan had said that. Hence, they were thinking about how to give her an explanation. She was a living beauty, and it was impossible to say, I don't want to. Sure enough, television dramas were full of lies. Did this mean that the so-called allied forces that they had tried so hard to please were actually their greatest enemies in the future? There was anticipation and fear, but they definitely did not want to break ties with them. Chapter 237. After the establishment of the Sea King, the players' lives returned to normal. Other than looking forward to the Sea King becoming stronger, activities such as cutting trees and farming death beasts continued to be a daily routine. Currently, the number of the Death Clan in the Void Ocean had increased again. They even took the initiative to approach Beiki, and the battles with the players became more frequent. Lu had already guessed what the Sea King wanted to do. It was obvious that the Sea King wanted to use the Death Clan's never-ending characteristic to wear down the strength of the Beiki army. When he had a firm foothold in the Kuelong Ocean, the Sea King would gather his forces and fight to the death with him. However, the Sea King did not know the characteristics of the players, so it could only be said that it was too realistic. However, Lu Wu was very satisfied with the Sea King's operation, and the players were even more satisfied. He was indeed the most popular boss villain. At the same time, Lu Wu had already begun to plan the expansion of Beiki's land territory. The land of Sangshu of the European server was in the north, so he naturally did not consider this area. Therefore, the barren grassland in the west and the Arctic abyss in the south became Lu Wu's next expansion target. Due to the departure of the frozen ghost emperor, Lu Wu realized that the iceberg in the Arctic abyss had begun to melt. Moreover, the players who learned from the forum that the Earthbreaking clan had the materials for the advancement of Rune Masters found out that the Earthbreaking clan had also disappeared after exploring the barren grassland in the west. This was undoubtedly good news for Lu Wu. Although the Earthbreaking clan and the Ice Snow clan did not have many clansmen, the strength they possessed was undoubtedly formidable. With the current strength of the players, although they could rely on unlimited resurrections to fight against them, there was still a gap in overall strength. Now that these ancient clans had left, it could be said that the entire power of Beiki was under Lu Wu's control. After careful consideration, Lu Wu finally decided to expand his land territory to the land of the 9 luminaries in the west of the barren grassland. After all, the direction of the Arctic abyss was too cold and not suitable for the players to fight. Lu Wu did not consider it for the time, being before the iceberg melted. After confirming the direction, Lu Wu asked the omnipotent Bei Li about the distribution of power in the land of the 9 luminaries. According to Bei Li, although the land of the 9 luminaries was made up of 9 powerful forces, it was not as scattered as Beiki. It was a completely unified territory. This was because this area was controlled by 9 brothers. Among them, the eldest, Xing Yao, was the ruler of the land of the 9 luminaries. His strength was at least above the late Ghost Emperor stage. Therefore, it was extremely difficult to conquer the land of the 9 luminaries. Since these 9 brothers were very united, they would definitely stand together against an invasion. Hence, if a war were to break out directly, the whole of Beiki might be conquered. However, Lu Wu was not in a hurry. Instead, he began to design the main mission of developing westward in advance. After making up his mind, Lu Wu felt that it was time for him to go out. During this period of time, he had been staying at home for a few months because he had become a kitten. Therefore, he planned to go out and have a look today. He would buy some ingredients on the way back and cook a good meal for Bei Li. After all, he was about to throw up from eating Bei Li's snacks. After greeting Bei Li, Lu Wu went downstairs and headed towards the supermarket. As he breathed in the fresh air of the outside world and watched the sunset glow, Lu Wu realized how wonderful it was to be human. As he turned into an alley, Lu Wu's phone suddenly rang. After unlocking the screen, Lu Wu realized that it was another call from the Jetta Corporation. "Hello, what's the matter?" Lu Wu thought for a while and picked up the phone. "I'll give you one last chance to reconsider. Are you going to remove the shield on our gaming pods or not?" The voice on the phone sounded a little hoarse, but Lu Wu laughed. "The company has no money, and the R&D team can't afford to pay us, so there's no other way. You've just gained a foothold in the gaming world. I think you're still too inexperienced and naive. Do you really think that we can't do anything to you?" The person on the other side continued. "Oh, are you threatening me? Call 911 to find out. Do you know, I thought it would be very troublesome to find you, but I didn't expect you to use an ordinary, unencrypted phone. This is really out of my expectations, and it saved me a lot of effort. Since you've chosen to be our enemy, I'm sorry." As soon as she finished speaking, the call was hung up. Lu Wu was baffled by the beeping sound that came from the other end of the line. However, he felt a gust of wind behind him. Bam! His head was hit hard, and at the same time, a burly figure appeared behind him. The man seemed to be waiting for Lu Wu to fall, but after a few seconds, he realized that Lu Wu had turned around with a dumbfounded look on his face, scratching his head with his right hand, looking very surprised. Seeing this scene, Number One's eyes widened. Although he had held back on this blow, the organization's order was to kidnap Lu Wu and bring him back. Even so, this blow was not a problem to knock Lu Wu out, but he did not expect Lu Wu to be unscathed. "Who are you?" Lu Wu could not help but complain. However, he immediately noticed the black iron rod in the burly man's hand. Thinking about what the Jetta Corporation's representative said on the phone, Lu Wu already knew where this man came from. At this moment, Number One struck again. He suddenly raised the iron rod and swung it at Lu Wu's neck. This time, he used more force, believing that Lu Wu would not be able to withstand it. Smack! Lu Wu still did not defend, but the way he looked at Number One had completely changed. How was this possible? Number One was very surprised. He knew very well how strong he was. After the experimental modification, he could easily lift a bull, but his attack did not have any effect on Lu Wu. This even made Number One suspect that there was something wrong with his body, and that all the strength he obtained from the modification had disappeared. At this moment, Lu Wu understood that the Jetta Corporation was preparing to play dirty, and his face could not help but turn dark. He reached out and grabbed the iron rod at his neck, slowly moving it away. Then, with a gentle tug, he caused Number One to stumble, and he snatched the iron rod from his hand. Then, under Number One's astonished expression, the iron rod made of alloy was twisted like a fried dough twist, and finally, it was crumpled into a ball by the seemingly weak man in front of him. Is he still human? Could he be a modified human? Number One's eyes widened. After seeing Lu Wu's methods, Number One knew that he was no match for him, so he immediately turned around and started running. Seeing this, Lu Wu squinted his eyes and aimed for a while, then raised the iron ball in his hand and threw it at Number One. Boom! A loud noise was heard, and a hole appeared on the ground. Looking at the hole made by the iron ball, Number One was so scared that cold sweat broke out on his forehead, and he increased his running speed again. I missed. Seeing that he did not hit the target, Lu Wu also started running. Although Number One was running very fast and could even be described as flying, he was still much slower than Lu Wu. Very soon, Lu Wu caught up with him, and he was punched to the ground. Number One, who was punched in the back, felt as if he was hit by a train from behind. His internal organs were all shaken, and he could not help but spit out a pool of blood, and pieces of flesh could be vaguely seen. Looking at Number One, who was lying on the ground and completely incapacitated, Lu Wu began to think about how to deal with him. Killing him was very easy for Lu Wu. However, what puzzled Lu Wu was that this burly man was also a cultivator. Otherwise, how could he have such great strength? Chapter 238. In the battle artifact space, Lu Wu and Bei Li were looking at Number One, who was tied up in mid-air, checking on his physical condition. QAD, experimental body, character details, a modified human from the Jetta Corporation's underground technological laboratory. His body has been cleansed by spiritual energy, and he has gained extraordinary strength. His serial number in the organization is Number One. Character status, brainwashed, unconscious. I didn't expect the Jetta Corporation to be researching and developing the use of spiritual energy. Bailey was surprised as she looked at Number One. Can they succeed? Lu Wu asked curiously. It's impossible. The spiritual energy in the world is already thin. I guess they must have found a way to cultivate from some ancient documents. They extracted the thin spiritual energy from the experiments and injected it into Number One's body. Then, they used the experimental equipment to forcefully circulate it in his body, which resulted in the change in his physical condition. All in all, it's a forced cultivation with the help of the equipment. This kind of cultivation will definitely damage his foundation. Even if he gains great strength, it will only be temporary and he won't live for long. Lu Wu nodded as he understood the theory. However, The fact that the Jetta Corporation had modified humans in an underground laboratory was beyond his expectations. Lu Wu frowned as he recalled the representative from the Jetta Corporation saying that he was still too young over the phone. Little Lee, help me modify my phone too. Now that my phone is not encrypted, they can locate me through my location. Although I'm not afraid of them, it will be troublesome. Bailey nodded. Oh yeah, should we return him a big gift? What big gift? Bailey pointed at number 1. If they can modify him, so can I. Moreover, with the artifact, it will be easy to brainwash him again. When the time comes, I'll send the strengthened version of number 1 back to them. Lu Wu's face broke into a smile, and he nodded. Bailey was the best when it came to research and development. She was a magical loli who believed in science in the cultivation world. Dragon Nation, in a villa in Chiyun City. The alarm woke up Yin Xiaoqi, who was sleeping soundly on the bed with her arms and legs spread out. She bent over and stood up, looking around in confusion. She then stared at the alarm clock that was still screaming. After a few seconds of silence, Yin Xiaoqi, who had recovered a little, slowly pressed the alarm clock, then fell back onto the bed and slept soundly. Yin Xiaoqi, get up. As the mechanical voice sounded, the bed suddenly began to shake. Xiao Guai, let me sleep for another 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. Yin Xiaoqi closed her eyes and hugged the quilt. Her body swayed with the bed skillfully. The second step of the awakening process has been initiated. All of your devices will self-destruct in 5 minutes. The countdown begins now. Hearing that she was going to self-destruct, Yin Xiaoqi, who had a lazy expression on her face and was about to continue sleeping, suddenly opened her eyes wide and quickly jumped up from the bed. Xiao Guai, let's talk this out. Don't blow yourself up so easily. At this time, a blue flying box slowly floated above Yin Xiaoqi. An angry expression appeared on the screen. Hurry up and start your decryption plan. This is the rule you set yourself. You can't go back on it. When Yin Xiaoqi heard this, she waved her hand sadly. Got it. I'll get up now. After putting on her clothes, Yin Xiaoqi still looked sleepy and sleepy. Opening the curtains, the warm sunlight flooded the entire room. Yin Xiaoqi stretched lazily. Her curvaceous body looked particularly charming under the sun. Xiaoqi, your breakfast is ready. As the voice of the AI butler Xiao Guai sounded, a dining car pushed the door open and slowly stopped in front of Yin Xiaoqi. After eating breakfast, Yin Xiaoqi's face finally had a trace of vitality. Xiao Guai, maybe we can solve the puzzle today. I'm really looking forward to what treasure it is. Come on, you're the best. The butler Xiao Guai swayed back and forth in the air. Hearing this, Yin Xiaoqi smiled and stepped to the side of the bed. She reached out and pressed on the wall. A green ray of light shot over and swept over her body. The wall automatically separated, revealing a passage, and Yin Xiaoqi stepped into it. As the light automatically lit up, a full view of the interior of the wall was revealed. It was filled with all kinds of mechanical equipment, some of which were still running automatically. With the sound of grinding gears and the flashing lights, the interior looked like a mysterious laboratory in a sci-fi movie. Yin Xiaoqi came to the console and sat down. As all the screens in front of her were lit up, she had an expectant look on her face. ZZX Treasure Plan, if you think your IQ is comparable to that of a god, then prove it to me. You who have solved all the clues will get my treasure. The familiar interface appeared in front of Yin Xiaoqi. After this line of words dimmed, the interface jumped. ZZX Treasure Plan, Level 258. Final Chapter, Start the Decryption. Seeing the words Final Chapter, Yin Xiaoqi clenched her fists excitedly. The ZZX Treasure Plan was a difficult problem that Yin Xiaoqi had been trying to solve for the past few months. She had first discovered this plan on the dark web, and it had caused quite a stir in her circle. Many people had tried to track down the person behind this puzzle, wanting to know if it was a prank or if there really was a treasure hidden in it. However, other than knowing that the creator of this puzzle claimed to be Bailey, there were no other clues. Even Yin Xiaoqi returned empty-handed after several searches. Because of this, the success of this treasure plan aroused Yin Xiaoqi's curiosity. She believed that her IQ was higher than 99. 9% of humans, and she wanted to challenge the puzzle to find out what the final treasure was. However, after some contact, Yin Xiaoqi had to admire the creator of this puzzle. At the beginning of the puzzle, there was only a picture with white words on a black background, with the words ZZX Treasure Plan written on it. There were no other hints. Naturally, the first level was not difficult for her. After studying the picture carefully, Yin Xiaoqi tried to zoom in and out of the picture to find clues, but it was to no avail. She then opened the picture with a text editor and tried to crack it with the Caesar decryption method. This time, she got the link to the next puzzle. However, this was just the beginning. All the puzzles were closely linked, and the difficulty kept increasing. From cryptography to Mayan numerals, even religion, occultism, and even art were involved. The clues to answer the questions range from the internet to the streets of cities in various countries in reality. The scope of the puzzle was so wide that it made one's hair stand on end. During the decryption process, she wanted to give up several times and even almost broke down. However, due to her stubborn character, she persevered. The 258th level was the last level of the puzzle. As long as she could solve it, she could get the treasure behind the puzzle. As the black words faded, the final puzzle appeared. Hello, smart person who has come to the last level. This is the last test. Now, I will give you a link. Put on the virtual reality helmet and open it. There will be the final test. If you can pass it, the treasure is yours. Yin Xiaoqi's face showed a charming smile. Treasure, treasure. After that, she followed the instructions and put on the virtual reality suit and virtual reality helmet. Then, she clicked on the link to the final level in the interface. Her line of sight passed through the blue light curtain and was shrouded by a white light. At this time, Yin Xiaoqi suddenly felt a headache, and then she realized that she had lost control of her body. The sudden change made Yin Xiaoqi feel uneasy. She immediately tried to exit the interface. However, to her horror, no matter how hard she tried to force the exit, the virtual interface never appeared. She tried very hard to open her eyes and try to control her body to do some movements, but she felt that she had completely lost the sense of these parts, as if she had been paralyzed. In such a dead silence, Yin Xiaoqi finally panicked. She had only opened the link, but she had lost control of her body. Even the virtual equipment's emergency exit system did not work. All of this seemed too strange. Yin Xiaoqi forced herself to calm down and comforted herself that this was just the process of decrypting the puzzle. Whether she succeeded or failed, she would be released. In this fear, a picture suddenly appeared in front of Yin Xiaoqi's eyes. It was a frozen picture like the background screen of a monitor. Moreover, this picture could not be moved and was completely out of her control. In the picture was a bulky computer, and there were many messy drawings on the table. The chair next to the table was even more broken. The cotton in the back of the chair was exposed, as if it would fall apart at any time. Such a frozen picture continued, making Yin Xiaoqi more and more uneasy. Everything in front of her was strange, and she could not understand what was going on. After an unknown amount of time, the picture finally changed. A white-haired old man wearing a white coat and a pair of thick glasses suddenly appeared on the screen. He stretched in front of his desk, then picked up the blueprint and looked at it. Then, he looked at the computer and pressed a few keys on the keyboard. Suddenly, the screen jumped, and a group of symbols appeared on the computer screen like garbled codes. After the old man glanced at it, his expression suddenly changed, and he immediately looked at Yin Xiaoqi. His eyes seemed to be able to see Yin Xiaoqi through the frozen picture. You actually came out? He seems to be talking to me? Yin Xiaoqi thought, but she had lost control of her body. Even if her heart was full of doubts, she could not answer the old man's question. However, while Yin Xiaoqi was thinking, a group of strange characters appeared on the computer again. However, she had never seen such twisted characters before, and she did not know what they meant. The old man glanced at these characters and sighed. You're the first to escape. I really didn't expect you to be able to solve all the secrets. Congratulations, you succeeded. Yin Xiaoqi was very smart. She immediately realized that her thoughts seemed to be able to appear on the old computer as strange characters. Then, she moved her mind and suddenly a string of characters appeared on the computer again. She was basically asking, where was this place? Why am I here? After the white-haired old man saw the string of characters, he frowned and thought for a moment. Then, he seemed to understand something. He took out something that looked like a remote control from his pocket and pressed a button on it. To Yin Xiaoqi's surprise, the picture began to rotate slowly, and soon the picture was fixed again. The picture in front of her made Yin Xiaoqi's pupils suddenly shrink. Inside a large cylindrical glass enclosure, a pulsating brain was immersed in a light green liquid, and there were many small tubes inserted around the brain. It looked very frightening. "This is you." The white-haired old man's figure appeared in the picture again, pointing at the brain and saying to Yin Xiaoqi. Yin Xiaoqi felt that this old man was simply crazy. He actually told her that she was only left with a brain. The white-haired old man seemed to know that Yin Xiaoqi could not accept it, so he did not speak again, waiting for Yin Xiaoqi to recover. Did something happen after I clicked on the link? Could it be that the laboratory exploded and only my brain survived? However, she immediately denied her guess, because with the current level of technology, it was still impossible to let a brain survive and operate on its own. The white-haired old man glanced at the characters that appeared on the computer and shook his head. "You have always been like this from the moment you were born, because you were created." Hearing this, Yin Xiaoqi really felt that she was dreaming. She had 23 years of life experience, but the sloppy old man in front of her told her that she had always been a created brain. This was extremely ridiculous. Since you've already come out, there's no harm in telling you. In fact, everything you've experienced is fake, including the world you think of. The final treasure is to tell you the truth and bring you out of that virtual world. The white-haired old man's words were shocking again. As if he knew that Yin Xiaoqi would not believe his words, the white-haired old man pushed up his glasses and continued. "The nerves in your brain were all connected to the computer next to me by the top neuroscientists. Everything you've experienced is a computer simulation, including your sense of touch, taste, and all other sensations are transmitted to you by the computer through your neurons, so you will have the illusion that everything is real." Yeah. Do you think I'll believe what you said? I'd rather believe that everything here is an illusion. Yin Xiaoqi thought coldly in her heart, because all of this was unacceptable to her. No matter how real the white-haired old man's words were, she would not believe it, because his parents, friends, and everything else were so real. They were all living flesh and blood. So how could they be fake? This is an experiment. This computer simulated everything you've experienced. Even if you don't believe it, you can't deny the reality of all of this. And as someone who has solved all the puzzles, you have the right to know the truth. Tell me that all of this is fake. Yin Xiaoqi roared angrily in her heart. Glancing at the computer screen, the white-haired old man smiled. "I know that all of this is unacceptable, but it is the truth." Yin Xiaoqi's heart could not calm down for a long time. Just as she was about to deny the old man's words again, she suddenly remembered that if her world was fake, why did it feel so real? Could it be that the cumbersome computer could really simulate it? Furthermore, there was a vast universe outside of the Earth that she lived in. Was that something that could be simulated? After seeing Yin Xiaoqi's thoughts, the old man could not help but shake his head. "How did your universe come to be?" The Big Bang of the singularity gave birth to the universe. This thought appeared in Yin Xiaoqi's mind without hesitation. From nothing to something. Don't you find it strange? The real world has no boundaries, but the world you're in is a quantified existence. Space can be quantified, time can be quantified, everything can be quantified. Although Yin Xiaoqi did not study this, she knew that this was indeed the case in the world she was in. After all, even light had been quantified. As if sensing Yin Xiaoqi's doubts, the white-haired old man continued. "Just like the photos on the computer in the virtual world, if you keep zooming in, you will find that the photos are actually made up of pixels. That doesn't mean anything. Then let me give you another example. In the world you're in, there's a sandbox game called Minecraft. Everything in the game has a limit. Just like building, the tallest building is 250 units, and there's no way to build anything higher." The old man suddenly smiled. "Then who set this rule?" Yin Xiaoqi was shocked. This game was naturally set by humans. Moreover, why does it rain in your world? The old man continued to ask. Naturally, it's because water vapor floats to a certain height and turns into small water droplets when it cools. The small water droplets form clouds, and the clouds collide with each other to form large water droplets. Due to gravity, they fall and turn into rain. Xiaoqi answered without hesitation. Oh, the wrinkles on the old man's face relaxed. Then why does water turn into water vapor? Why does water form small water droplets? Why can't air support water droplets, and why is there gravity? Can you tell me the answer? Before Xiaoqi could answer, the old man continued. These are all like the rules of a game. Correspondingly, the rules of the virtual world you're in are also set, but the real world can't be defined. It's almost like the chaos that you know of. Your world, on the other hand, is made up of rules that are like the rules of a game. Everything has a limit. Then what if it exceeds the limit? Xiaoqi was a little afraid. The white-haired old man pushed his glasses up again. In the virtual world you're in, the fastest speed is the speed of light. If you exceed the speed of light, the surrounding space will distort accordingly. This is the same principle as a computer. It will become laggy under overload. Hearing this, Xiaoqi fell silent because she realized that she couldn't refute the old man's words. But in her heart, she still firmly believed that the world she was in was real because everything was so real. You think that a clumsy computer can't simulate such a real world, but that's because you've fallen into the wrong line of thinking. After all, the virtual world you're in has rules, but the real world I'm in has no rules. Even a computer the size of a finger can easily simulate the operation of the entire universe in the virtual world you're in. Xiaoqi suddenly didn't want to argue with her anymore. Can you send me back? Even if that world is fake. The old man smiled. Your thoughts have already jumped out of that simulated world, and you can't go back. As the one who cracked it, congratulations on coming to the real world. Live on in this form? Beaster starred. Why don't you just kill me? Xiaoqi's emotions once again fluctuated greatly, causing a long string of words to appear on the computer screen. This is the real you. Isn't it good to return to your true self? Go my ass. The white-haired old man didn't get angry. He still looked at the screen with a smile, then took out a remote control again and pressed it. Immediately, the image in front of Xiaoqi's eyes began to spin again. Rows of cylindrical glass covers appeared in her vision, and within these glass covers, as expected, were jumping brains. You're not alone, but they don't exist in your world. I've simulated an independent world for each of them. Why did you do that? No reason. I just wanted to confirm something. Don't be too smug. Maybe the world you're in is also fake, and you're just a brain soaked in a nutrient solution. Seeing the words that appeared on the computer, the white-haired old man was obviously stunned for a moment, but then he smiled again. I suspected this possibility, but there are no rules in my world, so I believe that I'm real. Do you have proof? Why can't there be a limit and be real? Maybe you're just a brain that's about to rot. There's no difference between us, so don't look at me with pity. Why are you angry? You should know that your current mood swings are also simulated by this clumsy computer for you. You didn't create them yourself. CKU. You're so awesome. Try making me unable to produce emotions. This is something that was given to you the moment you were created. Unless you're completely disintegrated, it's impossible to achieve this. The old man's tone was as calm as water, but his words revealed a non-committal point of view, causing Xiaoqi's firm belief to constantly waver. Suddenly, Xiaoqi's mind flashed. She thought of a sentence from Descartes' idealism in the world she was in. I think, therefore I am. Even if everything is fake, as long as my thoughts are real, then I'm real. The idea in Xiaoqi's mind immediately appeared on the computer screen, and the old man who saw this immediately fell into deep thought. Can you explain? Even if the computer has given me emotions, how can you explain that I can think about this? Could it be that my conversation with you is actually this cumbersome computer chatting with you? The old man suddenly fell silent. For a moment, he couldn't answer Xiaoqi's question. Xiaoqi's words caused the old man to fall into his own paradox. If he answered that Yin Xiaoqi's thoughts were fake, then it meant that he had actually been talking to his computer all this time. But if he answered that Yin Xiaoqi's thoughts were real, then Yin Xiaoqi was real. What? Can't answer? Even if you say that my thoughts are fake, I won't believe you, because I believe in myself, the world, and my parents and friends. They're all real. I think, therefore I am. You really are a very special existence. The old man suddenly smiled with gratification. He looked at Yin Xiaoqi with a satisfied expression. Yin Xiaoqi didn't say anything and continued to remain silent. Congratulations, you successfully passed this test. From now on, you'll receive my gift and return to your world. What do you mean? Could it be that everything you said is really false? Is this just the final test of the puzzle? Yin Xiaoqi suddenly became excited. The old man smiled slightly. I can't answer whether you're telling the truth or not, because this is just a guess of mine, and I can't prove it. At this moment, the old man took out the remote control. All right, I'll send you off. You succeeded. The screen gradually dimmed. Who are you? Before leaving, Yin Xiaoqi asked the question in her heart. You can call me Bailey. Chapter 239. After getting out of the artifact, Lu Wu and Bailey looked at each other and smiled. They had gained a lot this time. It was because they had found a talented young man. The puzzles of the 258 checkpoints were personally released by Bailey a few months ago. The goal was to find a talented person with high IQ and talent, and to use him in leading troops in Battle Online. Although Battle Online had a large number of players, there was still a big gap, which was the lack of a talented military advisor. Although Lu Chai and Wu Guoi had the ability to lead troops, they were still lacking in terms of ability in large-scale battles. At this stage, Beiki was about to start the battle of new territory, and Lu Wu was desperate for such a talent. Although he had found many capable players in the forum, they were still far from what Lu Wu needed. Lu Wu was troubled at first, but he did not expect Bailey to tell him that someone had solved the puzzles released 3 months ago and had entered the final stage. Bailey had to personally solve the last stage. She used the artifact to disguise herself as a white-haired old man to play chess with Yin Xiaoqi, who had solved the puzzles. After all, her existence could not be exposed. In fact, Yin Xiaoqi was completely at a disadvantage. She could not explain the assumptions given by Bailey at all. However, that was not what Bailey wanted. She wanted to know what Yin Xiaoqi was thinking when she was faced with these questions. In the end, even though Yin Xiaoqi could not prove it, she still insisted on her point of view, which was acknowledged by Bailey. Therefore, after Yin Xiaoqi threw out the theory of I think, therefore I am, Bailey chose to go easy on her and let her pass the test. This was because Yin Xiaoqi had proven her talent and met Bailey and Lu Wu's requirements. The 258 questions range from astronomy and geography to various kinds of commanding troops and battle formations, as well as various kinds of academic research. Although Yin Xiaoqi relied on the convenience of the internet age to search for a lot of answers, it still proved her own talent. Even though she had no experience in leading troops to war, Lu Wu wanted her talent, which could be cultivated in the game. Therefore, she had been recorded in the booklet of talented players by Lu Wu. The next thing to do was to bring her into Battle Online. The virtual interface slowly appeared in front of her. Yin Xiaoqi took off the virtual reality helmet without hesitation, a look of lingering fear on her face. Everything that happened just now was so real that she even thought that she was really just a brain soaked in nutrient solution. Real? Illusion? Yin Xiaoqi touched her cheeks and fell into a state of doubt. Not only did he create such a realistic virtual environment with just a link, but how did he manage to control my virtual equipment and confuse my brain? If it was a hacking technique, Yin Xiaoqi would definitely scoff at it because she was one of the top hackers in the world, and it was impossible for her to do it. A technology that far exceeds current technological development, supernatural abilities, extraterrestrial technology. Yin Xiaoqi's mind was in a mess. However, the person who claimed to be Bailey left behind too few clues. She could not find any clues. At this moment, she recalled Bailey's last words before she left that strange world, which was, I'm going to kill you. I can't prove whether it's true or not, because it's just my guess. I don't want to think about it anymore. I'll go crazy if I think about it anymore. Yin Xiaoqi threw the virtual reality helmet on the ground angrily and turned her head to the screen. "I'd like to see what the final treasure is." At this moment, the screen showed an envelope that was burning with purple flames. Yin Xiaoqi moved her mouse over the envelope, and her face was in a dilemma. She had to admit that the experience just now had scared her. She was afraid that the treasure in the envelope was something that would make her doubt her life. Open it? Not open it. After struggling for a while, Yin Xiaoqi clenched her teeth and opened the envelope. Suddenly, the flame on the screen seemed to be about to burst out, and the envelope slowly opened under the burning flame. "Congratulations, you've successfully passed all the levels. The following link is the wealth that I've given you. Enter that world and receive your exclusive reward. Hint, don't doubt, don't try to prove anything, just like what you've experienced in the last level. What is reality? What is illusion? Whatever you think it is, it's what it is." Reading the contents of a letter, Yin Xiaoqi's face showed a shocked expression. Why does this sound like a spam ad? After thinking for a while, Yin Xiaoqi clicked on the link to see what it was that made it sound so mysterious. However, before that, she decisively took off the virtual reality suit that she was wearing and kicked the virtual reality helmet away at the same time to prevent herself from falling into the trap again. After all, the previous encounter had traumatized her, and she was afraid that the link was also a trap. However, after clicking on the link, Yin Xiaoqi was even more confused. Slap! She slammed the keyboard fiercely, and a furious expression appeared on her face, because she felt that she had been fooled. After spending a few months of hard work, the treasure turned out to be this thing. At this moment, the screen displayed the download address of the game Battle Online. At the bottom of the game, there was a line of words. "This game has been developed meticulously for 10 years, and its authenticity is close to 100%. This website explicitly states that there is no top-up entrance in this game. If it was possible, Yin Xiaoqi would like to see that old man who called himself Bailey again, and then give him a series of chokehold, eye-piercing, and scissors kicks. I put in so much hard work, and it turns out to be a promotional advertisement for a game. It's fine if you give me millions of consolation money, but this treasure is too perfunctory and excessive." Yin Xiaoqi gritted her teeth in hatred, but she had nowhere to vent it. She felt that her little heart had been greatly stimulated. Ding! Download complete. At this moment, the system notification sounded. Yin Xiaoqi raised her head abruptly, and then realized that her computer had automatically downloaded the game. Am I infected with a virus? This was Yin Xiaoqi's first thought. Then, she quickly began to clean up the computer files, trying to find the hidden virus in the computer. However, no matter how hard she searched, she could not find the computer virus that might exist. In the end, Yin Xiaoqi had no choice but to clench her teeth and reformat the entire computer. However, after rebooting, Yin Xiaoqi was shocked to find that the game icon still appeared on the computer desktop. Was it another supernatural technology at work? After a moment of silence, Yin Xiaoqi shifted her gaze to the Battle Online icon on the computer desktop. She did not like to play games, and she had never paid attention to the matters of the gaming circle. However, she had to admit that she was curious about this game now. "Do you think that I, Yin Xiaoqi, am afraid of death?" Baring her canine teeth, Yin Xiaoqi stood up and picked up the virtual reality suit and virtual reality helmet that she had thrown on the ground. After putting on the suit, Yin Xiaoqi clicked on the interface, selected Battle Online, and started the game. She felt weightless, and when the image became clear again, a character selection interface appeared in front of Yin Xiaoqi's eyes. However, before she could see it clearly, the image changed again. Then, she realized that she had appeared in an unfamiliar world. Blood-colored drizzle, gusts of cold wind, pedestrians walking on the streets. Everything was so real, just like what she had experienced before. Could it be that I've been thrown into a new paradoxical world again? F***CK. Bailey, you old man. Chapter 240. Standing on the street of the Mansion of the Dead, Yin Xiaoqi gritted her teeth angrily. Even until now, Yin Xiaoqi had never thought that this was a real game. After all, Everything was too realistic and could not be achieved with the current virtual technology. After trying to calm herself down, Yin Xiaoqi began to observe her surroundings, trying to find clues to solve the mystery of this level. Yin Xiaoqi's attentively scanning her surroundings immediately piqued the curiosity of a few players around her. Newbie, what's your class? Do you want to join our guild? Don't think that our guild is not doing well now. That's because we came late. We'll definitely make it into the top 100 guilds in the future. After all, our guild leader is... Listening to the man in front of her, Yin Xiaoqi began to analyze the hidden clues in his words. However, she soon felt that something was amiss. Dungeon, forming a party, farming monsters, leveling up. Although she did not play games much, she deduced a possibility from the man's words, and that was that this was really a game world. In order to verify this, she tried to summon the operation panel. Battle Online's game panel instantly appeared, neatly arranged with the shop, character panel, and other functions. Is this really a game? Yin Xiaoqi raised her head and asked the man in front of her with a serious expression. The man had a strange look on his face when he heard that. What do you mean? Yin Xiaoqi frowned and did not speak. Instead, she quickly ran toward the area where the players were concentrated. After half an hour of investigation, she confirmed her point of view from the few words exchanged by the players. However, Yin Xiaoqi still had a huge doubt in her heart. Why have I never heard of a game with such advanced technology? At this moment, Yin Xiaoqi suddenly recalled a piece of content that she had read on the dark web. It mentioned that there was a highly realistic game in the world, but the entrance to this game was very mysterious. Moreover, it was said that dying in the game would also cause damage to oneself in reality. At that time, Yin Xiaoqi scoffed at this piece of information, thinking that it was just a deceptive rumor. However, she suddenly believed it now. Moreover, she suspected that she was currently in the scene of that underground game. This made Yin Xiaoqi inexplicably nervous. After all, if she got hurt in the game, she would also get hurt in reality. This was no small matter. She was basically playing the game with her life. What are you thinking about? At this moment, a figure appeared beside her and looked at her with a smile. Bailey, seeing the newcomer, Yin Xiaoqi took a cautious step back and got into a fighting stance. Don't overthink it. How can there be a game in reality where you get injured in the game and receive the same feedback in reality? Bailey, who had transformed into an old man, looked at Yin Xiaoqi and said with a smile, "How do you explain such a high degree of realism?" Yin Xiaoqi did not let down her guard at all. She lifted her right leg slightly, looking like she was going to kick at any time. Bailey held her forehead. Don't you know that there's a game called Battle Online? If you don't understand, perhaps you could try to understand? Really? Really? Then what about the treasure that you promised? Why is this game the final treasure? Yin Xiaoqi once again flashed her sharp canine teeth. Next, you will receive an ultimate mission. Complete it according to the steps, and you will obtain an unexpected reward. I guarantee that you will not be disappointed. Don't try to trick me again. I won't fall for it. I've never lied to you. Believe me, you'll love this gift. Who are you? Why are you doing this? Bailey shook her head. Don't ask why. Remember what I said before, whether it's real or illusory, it's whatever you think it is. From now on, your mission begins. Rely on your own talent to grow. Don't let me down. Under Yin Xiaoqi's astonished gaze, Bailey's figure drifted away with the wind. Game notification. Unlocking the first round of the ultimate chain mission. The beginning of greatness. Mission introduction. Build your own guild and become one of the top 1,000 popular guilds in Battle Online. Mission reward. An exclusive inherited character class. Hidden mission reward. Looking at the contents of the mission panel, Yin Xiaoqi was astonished. Although she was not interested in playing games, this completely realistic world did arouse her curiosity. She could not help but want to explore the secrets hidden in it. However, what she wanted to know now was whether such a game really existed in the market. Thinking of this, she clicked on the interface again and selected the option to exit the game. As the screen gradually dimmed, she returned to reality. Seeing that she could exit the game easily, Yin Xiaoqi's worries faded a lot. Then, she quickly went to the computer and began to search for information about Battle Online. As pieces of information appeared, Yin Xiaoqi fell into deep thought. Mini-game videos, expansion packs, strategy databases built by players themselves, monster atlases, and various analysis posts. All these information proved that this game really existed. However, a game with such a high degree of realism had actually appeared in this era, and it had only been released for 5 months. This was truly shocking to her. Others might not be aware of the information contained within, but she thought of many aspects. First of all, such a highly realistic game could be used for military simulations and various scientific research experiments. This was similar to a game called Eve, which provided a huge amount of data support for the Human Protein Atlas project. Such a technology with such great potential value was only used for a game. Yin Xiaoqi could not understand this. If she were to put herself in Battle Online's shoes, she would definitely build a huge business empire and apply this technology in various fields to create more value for herself. Therefore, she could not understand the actions of Battle Online. Also, who was that Bailey? Could she be a member of the research team of Battle Online? After pondering for a moment, Yin Xiaoqi, who could not figure it out, continued to search for relevant information, looking for clues. However, there was no information about the research team behind the game on the internet. She could not find any useful information no matter how hard she tried. However, the more she learned about this game, the more curious she became. Because according to the description of the information, the game world was more exciting than one could imagine. It even mentioned that the strengthening of the body in the game could be synchronized with the feedback. This made Yin Xiaoqi's heart itch, and she could not help but want to experiment. After spending half a day to understand the various contents of Battle Online, Yi Qianqian's heart skipped a beat. Yin Xiaoqi came to a conclusion. The so-called final treasure was actually a slot for a special player. She did not have a character selection interface like other players when she entered the game, but there was an additional ultimate mission. As for the reward of the so-called inherited character class, in the first round of the ultimate mission, Yin Xiaoqi was completely shocked after looking up the relevant information. This virtual item, known as the inherited character class, was priced as high as 50 million yuan. Many people were buying it online, but the transaction record was 0%. It was really a treasure. At this moment, Yin Xiaoqi's heart was restless, and she was eager to give it a try. Was building a powerful guild the first step of the mission? How could it stump me? Thinking of this, Yin Xiaoqi put on the virtual reality helmet again. This time, the hesitation in her heart was gone. All that was left was the ambition to achieve great things. Chapter 241. With Lu Wu and Bei Li's expectations, Yin Xiaoqi, an extremely talented person, officially joined the game Battle Online. She did not disappoint Lu Wu and Bei Li. Although she did not have a beginner class, she quickly figured out a set of methods to quickly kill monsters and level up in the early stages through the strategy posts of the professional players in the forum. In just 3 days, without buying any soul coins, she established her own guild in the game. Everything was as Bei Li had expected. She had begun to gradually reveal her talent in the game. Lu Wu and Bei Li would not be able to provide her with any help as to whether or not she could rely on her own talents to command Beiqi's troops in every foreign war. She could only rely on herself to slowly build up her prestige among the players. This was also a necessary step to continue the ultimate quest. Moreover, Lu Wu was sure that after knowing the contents of the hidden rewards after completing the ultimate quest, Yin Xiaoqi would definitely be firmly tied to his pirate ship made of Altman alloy. Recently, when Lu Wu was about to issue a strategic probe mission to the land of the 9 luminaries, bad news came from the European server. Although the territory of the European server had expanded a lot compared to before, the overall development was obviously accelerated. However, as time passed, Yuanshu had already recruited most of the old troops of Songshu. Soon, he would be integrating the military forces of the entire land of Songshu. When that time came, the strength of the Xiansu army would never be able to compete with Yuanshu, unless all the players of Beiqi went to support them. At this time, the forum of the European server was already discussing countermeasures. High Delay Warrior, Europe. I think if we wait for Yuanshu to integrate the army, we can retreat from the hidden dragon zone first and come back when we are stronger. Otherwise, we won't be able to defeat them. Star Universe. Europe, at this stage of the war, it's not a problem to deal with an army of ghost generals. However, if it's a joint army of several ghost kings and ghost generals, then we definitely have no hope of winning. We can consider retreating. Knight of the Abyss. Europe, in fact, as players, unlimited resurrection is our biggest advantage. We will definitely win if we fight a war of attrition. We can choose to retreat and develop first. The Flash. Europe, don't. I have feelings for the Hidden Dragon area. I don't want to leave. Let's fight to the death. Don't we still have our brothers in Bakey? Another expedition will do. Crayon_Shinchan replied to the Flash. We're also looking forward to the return of the expedition. However, because Yuanchu's strength has reached the Ghost Emperor realm, we won't be able to defeat him in a direct confrontation. However, it's still possible to wear down their military strength with a few more waves. Laughing emoji. Now, the European server players were very worried about the possible arrival of Yuanchu's army. Many players expressed their opinions. Basically, they were either evacuating or hoping that the Bakey Expeditionary Army would come to their aid and defend with their lives. However, with Yuanchu's strength, even the original server players were not optimistic that they could defend the Hidden Dragon Army. After all, they had witnessed the combat prowess of a Ghost Emperor, and the current strength of the players was definitely no match for it. Just when European server players were at their wits' end, a player posted a suggestion thread. Soon after, this suggestion thread quickly became a hot topic among the players of the European server and the original server. Regarding the possibility of a war between the army of Xiansu and Yuanchu, I have a suggestion. Everyone can refer to it. Author: In Xiaoqi is a big sister. Subject: I'm a newbie. Before participating in the discussion of this topic, I've looked through many videos and information to understand the specific situation of a European server at this stage. The cause of everything is Hu He, the great demon king's daily digging of natural disasters. I've also learned more about Hu He, the great demon king. Let me first pay my respects to Hu He, the great demon king. His ability to cause trouble is maxed out. He's really amazing. However, did anyone notice a problem? The natural disasters that our Hu He, the great demon king, often dig out are indiscriminate. As long as it's a living creature, it will devour it. Extending from this question, what if we let Hu He, the great demon king, out in the land of Sangshu and let him unleash his destructive talent at will, digging out a large number of natural disasters that have been sealed since ancient times? At this stage, if Yuanchu wants to unify the land of Sangshu, it is inevitable that he will destroy the army of Xiansu. However, at this time, there are many natural disasters that are a greater threat to his territory. What will he do? If you're Yuanchu and a large-scale natural disaster breaks out when you're about to unify the land of Sangshu, would you first suppress the natural disasters that have a greater impact on your rule over Sangshu, or let the natural disasters wreak havoc and suppress the extremely weak army of Xiansu first? The basis of my opinion is that Yuanchu doesn't know the potential of the players, and he doesn't know that the players can be resurrected. In fact, Yuanchu really doesn't understand the players. Therefore, I'll make a suggestion here. Close the door. Magnify the great demon king. The appearance of this suggestion post immediately caused quite a stir in the local server and the European server. Crayon_Shinchan. Awesome. Awesome. Why didn't I think of that? Fight fire with fire, relying on the tumor to dig out the natural disasters to contain Yuanchu. I give this suggestion full marks. It's definitely feasible. High delay warrior, Europe sure. Moreover, our army of Xiansu can take advantage of the natural disasters to speed up our development. I agree. Knight of the Abyss, Europe, I agree. If I were Yuanchu, I would definitely suppress the natural disasters first. After all, the army of Xiansu is just a weak force that has occupied the Hidden Dragon District. It's not worth mentioning. Shueli_the_strongest. 666, is the OP really a newbie? You've thought it through. This move of fighting fire with fire is really useful. Invincible_loneliness. The OP things from a tricky angle. Are you interested in joining our myth guild to develop? Handshake. In Xiaoqi is a domineering lady. Watermelon_Taro. I have my own guild. Let me make an advertisement. My guild's name is Battle. We only accept elite players who can pass my assessment. Yay! Watermelon_Taro. The great Demon King can finally show his prowess in front of the expectations of the people. This time, dig as much as you can. The great Demon King will probably be very happy. Laughing emoji, Taoist_zombie_hunter. Have you guys asked me? Is it really okay to make a decision on my own? I refuse. I swore that I would never dig again. I'm already traumatized. Squatting in a corner. JPG, Crayon_Shinchan replied to Taoist_zombie_hunter. I'm giving you a look full of justice backstabbing. Feel it yourself. Laughing emoji. Under the repeated persuasion of the players and the guarantee that they would let him out of the safe zone and that there would be no interference from the justice backstabbing, our great Demon King, who he finally gave in. He decided to take action personally and turn the land of Sangshu upside down. In fact, who he had long wanted this day to come. The reason why he declined and refused was to wait for the players to give him a follow-up guarantee. Moreover, he could resume his old business of digging up corpses and seals. Needless to say, who he was overjoyed. Therefore, on this day, who he puffed out his chest, raised his shovel, and stepped out of the halo of the resurrection point amidst the cheers of the European server players. Taking a deep breath of the fresh air outside the resurrection point, Hui's face revealed an intoxicated expression. He had already forgotten how many days and nights he had spent in the resurrection point. Finally, such days had come to an end. From now on, I'm his savior. Chapter 242, Battle Official Forum. The live streaming section was extremely lively. One of the live streaming rooms had a horrifying number of over 9 million viewers. It could be said that most of the players in the game had come to this live streaming room to watch the live stream. That was because this time, the most lethal villain, Hui, was going to live stream the excavation of the seal. As requested by the majority of the players, I will live stream the excavation of the seal. This time, I represent justice. I am the savior. In a live streaming room, Hui held a shovel in his right hand and a compass in his left. He was walking a swamp area. Beep, beep, beep. Accompanied by the sound of the compass, Hui stopped in his tracks. Chana's zombie spirit immediately took a step forward, took over the shovel from Hui, and started digging with all its might. The players in the live streaming room were looking forward to it. Although they had always heard about Hui's destructive power, it was their first time watching a live stream. They were filled with curiosity. Under Hui's command, Chana's zombie spirit dug with all its might. In a short while, a black cave was dug out in the muddy ground. This time, Hui, who had no psychological burden, looked at the cave and chuckled. He then took out his searchlight and other tools and leaped into the cave. After landing, Hui began to explore the environment. The interior was like an underground palace. The ground was covered in moss and cracked green stone slabs. The searchlight's light could not reach the end after scanning around. The surroundings looked extremely empty. Although the zombie energy index is not as high as when I dug Yuanshu, it's still relatively high. There's definitely a big zombie here. I have to confirm if there's a seal here, Hui said as he raised the searchlight and moved forward. The stench of decay is heavy in the air, and it's slightly poisonous. This underground palace must have been built a long time ago, and, judging from the toxicity in the air, I suspect that the poisonous swamp above was caused by this tomb, Luli said. Listening to Hui's explanation, the players' gazes followed Hui's footsteps and moved forward. Needless to say, the players were impressed by Hui's professionalism. His explanation along the way had also broadened their horizons. After walking for about 10 minutes, Hui found a wall covered in rust. There were many strange characters carved on the wall. Because these runes were severely damaged, even a divine artifact could not decipher their contents. However, what piqued the curiosity of Hui and the players were the 6 pearls emitting a dark luster embedded in the center of the wall. Demon Sealing Formation Seal, Item Details, High-Level Seal Array, formed by an arrangement of 6 demon sealing orbs. It cannot be broken without a specific method. Breaking it by force will trigger a taboo set by the person who laid the array. Damage 0. 1% who he frowned when he saw the item's information. The seal this time was different from the others. It even set up a taboo to prevent destruction. He had seen this kind of seal in ancient books and had an impression of it. If he forcefully destroyed it, not only would he not be able to break the seal, he might even be sent back to the respawn point. Seeing that who he was deep in thought, the players in the forum became lively. Crayon_Shinchan. Is it that difficult to dig out the seal? I thought it would be over with a shovel. Funny. Shuli_the_strongest. Go Demon King. You're the best. Watermelon_Taro. I suspect that he is a grave robber in real life. Call the police. Laughing emoji. After reading the comments, Hui shifted his attention back to the demon sealing formation. This was the first time he had encountered such a seal. For a moment, he did not know how to deal with it. However, it was not as if there was no other way. He opened the photo album and started flipping through the ancient books. The secret book of a zombie spirit sect recorded many techniques used by the seniors of the zombie spirit sect to deal with special seals during grave excavation. After flipping through the pages, Hui found a page that was written about how to break and deal with the demon sealing formation. After a careful look, Hui stood up and walked to the front of the demon sealing formation. He pressed his right hand on the demon sealing orb in the middle and began to push it down slowly. While the players were curious, Hui moved the 6 demon sealing orbs back and forth according to the method recorded in the ancient books. The luster on the surface of the demon sealing orb flickered and dimmed as Hui tried. About 5 minutes later, when Hui moved the demon sealing orb at the bottom to the middle position, all 6 demon sealing orbs flashed at the same time. Gotcha! Several cracks appeared on the 6 demon sealing orbs. A thick green mist spread out from the cracks. Hui took a step back decisively. Boom! Boom! At this moment, the underground palace began to shake. Under the astonished expressions of the viewers in the live streaming channel, the rusty wall slowly split open from the center and moved to both sides. When they saw the interior of the wall, both Hui and the players widened their eyes. Inside the wall was a huge green pool. Inside the pool were densely packed monsters that looked half human and half beast. At a glance, there were at least a few thousand of them, and this was only an estimate as far as the eye could see. Under the corrosion of the green liquid in the pool, the bodies of these hideous monsters quickly melted and turned into skeletons. However, this was not what shocked Hui and the players. It was the fact that these skeleton-like monsters would quickly regrow their bodies and rebuild their bodies. Shebi Zombie Clan. Character details. An ancient clan from the land of limited void. Cursed by the ancient gods, they lost their 3 souls and 7 spirits. Their flesh is immortal and they are in constant pain. Only by devouring the flesh and souls of others can they relieve this pain. Status. Unconscious seeing the information of these creatures, Hui grinned while the players in the forum cheered. Crayon_Shinchan. Awesome. After watching the whole live stream, I think we can't let this guy live. Let's first trick him into solving the crisis in the land of Tsangshu, then seal him with the resurrection point. It's too scary. Laughing emoji. Shuli_the_strongest. Awesome. Awesome. Looking for the big tomb and breaking the seal. He's very skillful, but at the same time, there's an inexplicable sense of danger. Watermelon_Turo. The Great Devil King is really scary. No wonder he's recognized by the players as the most lethal villain. Laughing emoji. Cheated under 8,000 yuan. After watching the whole live stream, I want to say that I can't rest easy until the Great Devil King is sealed. But this time, we can dig without worry because it's what the people want. Laughing emoji. Taoist_zombie_hunter. You guys promise that you can't go back on your words. After seeing the players promise again, Hui felt more at ease. He then shifted his gaze to the pool in front of him. Now that the demon sealing formation was broken, it would be easy to wake up the Shebi zombie clan. As the players looked at him expectantly, Hui took out a stereo from the channel. After pressing a few buttons on it, the lights on the stereo started flashing and explosive music started playing. Waves began to rise in the green pool. The players watching were speechless. Chapter 243. As the players in the live streaming channel stared in bewilderment, Hui took out a sound system. The lights were flashing and the music was deafening. Ripples started to form in the green pool as the Chevy corpses opened their green eyes. Roar! The Chevy corpses roared furiously. Their bodies that had been dormant for countless years were finally awakened. At this moment, all the Chevy corpses stared at Hui with bloodthirsty eyes. Pain. Endless pain spread across their bodies. After awakening, they once again entered a stage where they would rather die than live. Under the ancient god's curse, their bodies were immortal, but they had to go through the soulless torture. They thirsted for fresh blood and even more so for souls. At this moment, Hui was shocked to find a Chevy corpse in the middle of the pool that was obviously bigger than the others. It was glaring at him with eyes that looked like they were about to spit fire. Just as Hui was feeling puzzled, a server announcement appeared. Frowny face server announcement. In the land of Sangshu, the ancient demon sealing formation has been broken by player Hui. The Chevy Corpse clan has been born. This clan is cursed by the ancient god and has an immortal body. Players, please pay attention to your safety. Seeing that he had successfully completed the first mission, Hui's face revealed a proud smile. Then he shifted his gaze to the huge Chevy corpse and opened the analysis. Chevy General, Ghost King Peak. Character information. The most talented tribe leader of the ancient Shibai clan. He entered the ancient god's forbidden ground by mistake and plucked the ancient god's natal spiritual plant. He committed a heinous sin, and the entire Shibai clan was implicated because of this. All of them became half alive, half dead, but immortal Shibai zombies. In the endless massacre, the Chevy General finally awakened a trace of his spiritual wisdom. He resolutely locked himself and his clan in the Chevy Underground Palace in an attempt to use the endless slumber to stop his clan from suffering and killing. Character status. Soulless curse, soulless body. In this state, no matter how talented one is, one's realm cannot be improved without the support of a soul. Seeing this character's information, Hui was stunned. Now he knew why the Chevy General looked at him so angrily. The players in the forum burst into laughter. Shueli_ the strongest. Poor Chevy clan. They finally stopped suffering, but they met the great demon king who dug them out by force. Crayon_Shinchan. Great demon king. Hurry up and tell him not to sleep. Wake up and get high. Sangshu is so lively now, why would he need to sleep? Let's go. Assassin's Creed. Great demon king. Want to sleep? No way. Dance your body to the music. A big wolf dog. Haha, he sealed himself. Awesome. Cheated 8,000 yuan from online dating. You want to sleep? Our great demon king said, no way. As long as I'm in this world, I'll admit defeat if you guys can't get high. In Xiaoqi is a domineering lady. I'm laughing so hard. I feel like I want to strangle the demon king right now. Watermelon_Taro. The great demon king is mighty. The great demon king is the best. Reading the players' comments, Hui felt a little awkward. Kill. The Shi General's body gradually reconstructed itself. Then it leaped out of the pool and leaped towards Hui. Seeing this, Hui immediately put away all the tools around him and adjusted his pain to the lowest setting. Then he opened his arms and welcomed death. Under the Shi General's rage, Hui did not even last a second before he was torn into a black fog. Chi. With a sudden inhalation, the Shi General seemed to want to suck Hui's soul out. However, Hui's soul had already been stored in the artifact channel. It was impossible for him to absorb it. After several fruitless attempts, the bloodthirst in the Shi General's eyes skyrocketed. Once again, he lost his mind under the endless torment. Roar! Accompanied by the Shi General's roar, the Chevy corpse in the pool also roared furiously. Then it leaped out of the pool and followed the Shi General out. Flesh and soul. These are what they desire the most now. The time to kill had arrived. Although Hui, who had dug out the Chevy clan, was already dead, He had fulfilled the player's request and brought an unkillable enemy to Yuan-Shu. However, this was just the beginning. When Hui entered the cool-down stage of death, none of the players left his live streaming room. They were waiting for Hui, the great demon king, to resurrect and stir up trouble again. 3 hours later, when Hui resurrected at the resurrection point, he found countless players gathered near the resurrection point. All of them were staring at him expectantly. "Welcome back, great demon king. Welcome back, great demon king." Seeing that Hui was online, the European server's players began to cheer, looking forward to him showing off his skills again. Although it was very strange, the feeling of being valued still made Hui feel a little touched. Thinking of his past experience of being hated by everyone, and then looking at how everyone expected him to be now. Perseverance was indeed the right thing to do. He had finally made it. Therefore, Hui held his head high and left the safe zone amidst the players' cheers. He continued to search for the ancient seal ground in the land of Tsangshu. The players finally saw how terrifying Hui's lethality was in the next few days. Meanwhile, the European server was also completely lively. Server-wide announcement. The ancient winged serpent clan in the land of Tsangshu has been awakened by player Hui. Players, please pay attention to your safety. Server-wide announcement. The shadow god's remnant body in the land of Tsangshu has been awakened by player Hui. This remnant body has lost its consciousness. Driven by instinct, it will devour flesh and souls to repair its remnant body. Players, please pay attention to your safety. Server-wide announcement. The ancient black Kuei demon tree seal in the land of Tsangshu has been destroyed by player Hui. This plant is extremely dangerous and has the ability to create plagues. Players, please pay attention to your safety. Server-wide announcement. The evil king in the land of Tsangshu has been awakened by player Hui. This creature was formed from the evil thoughts of an ancient god before he became a god. Its strength has reached the beginner Ghost Emperor stage. Players, please pay attention to your safety. Server-wide announcement. The extreme spiritual wind has been awakened by player Hui in the land at Tsangshu. This is an evil and intangible storm with intelligence. It is a natural disaster. This disaster will soon wreak havoc in the land at Tsangshu. Players, please pay attention to your safety. Server-wide announcement. The underground clan seal connected to the surface in the land of Tsangshu has been destroyed by player Hui. There is a high possibility that the underground clan will enter the surface. Their good and evil intentions are unknown. Players, please pay attention to your safety. From the initial shock to the subsequent numbness, the players no longer had the energy to complain about Hui's lethality. In the short span of 3 days, Hui had dug out more than 10 seals. Moreover, hidden within each seal was an extremely lethal existence. The emergence of these evil forces that were almost indestructible had caused the land of Tsangshu to become lively. The entire land of Tsangshu could be described as demons dancing in a frenzy. As the natural disaster wreaked havoc, the players who lived in the eastern corner of Tsangshu began to enjoy the show. Although they were also partially affected, the players were very happy. After all, they had already made preparations to evacuate. It could not be any better that the situation had turned out this way. Perhaps the natural disaster was an endless trouble in the eyes of others. However, in the eyes of the players, it was experience points and soul coins. Although it was troublesome to deal with, they were never tired of it. They were both in pain and in joy. At this moment, Yin Xiaoqi, who had gained the attention of the players, posted another suggestion. This time, her suggestion shocked all the players once again. Such a creative suggestion made everyone's scalp tingle. Chapter 244. Yin Xiaoqi had gained a lot of attention among the players after she suggested releasing the Great Demon King last time. This time, when she suggested it again, the number of views on the post increased rapidly. After understanding her suggestion, the players were once again impressed by her unique way of thinking. The newbie is giving another suggestion. I think the players of the European server can play this way. The original poster, Yin Xiaoqi is a royal sister. Subject, This suggestion was mainly made after analyzing the current situation of the forces in the land of Sangshu. Just take a look. After all, it's just a suggestion. Whether it's implemented depends on everyone. Let's get down to business. First of all, I'd like to talk about our great Demon King. He has recently created more than 10 natural disasters in the land of Sangshu with his extraordinary talent. All of them were extremely destructive. The newbie pays his utmost respect. All hail the great Demon King. I've been paying attention to this matter during the subsequent stage of the natural disasters, and I've discovered something interesting. There were many kinds of natural disasters this time. Apart from various bloodthirsty creatures and undead creatures, there were also natural disasters that had never appeared before. However, that wasn't the main point. The most important thing was that there was a very special and extremely powerful Ghost Emperor level expert, the Evil King. The Evil King's introduction in the server announcement said that he was formed from the evil thoughts of an ancient god before he became a god. The Evil King also behaved completely differently from the other natural disasters. I'm not sure if anyone has noticed it. From a mini post describing the natural disasters, I discovered one thing. The Evil King was different from the other natural disasters. He did not cause great destruction after his appearance. Instead, he began to develop his own forces. He also learned from Yuanshu to recruit the Ghost Kings and Ghost Generals of the various forces in the land of Sangshu. What did this mean? It meant that the Evil King was very ambitious. His goal was to become the overlord of the land of Sangshu. At this stage, although the Evil King was alone, one shouldn't forget that he was at least a Ghost Emperor level expert. Judging from the fact that he was only sealed but not killed, it was very likely that he would be extremely difficult to kill. With so many innate advantages, the Evil King dared to recruit so brazenly and openly. It could be said that he was not afraid of Yuanshu at all. Therefore, this was the current situation of the forces in Sangshu. Player, hostile, Yuanshu. Player, hostile, Evil King. Player, hostile, various natural disasters Yuanshu. Hostile, player, Yuanshu. Hostile, Evil King, Yuanshu. Hostile, disaster Evil King. Hostile, player, Evil King. Hostile, Yuanshu. Evil King. Hostile, various catastrophes calamity. Hostile, all forces because the natural disasters were unstable factors. They were the public enemies of all the forces. Even the natural disasters were hostile to each other. Therefore, if this unstable factor was eliminated, it would actually form a triangle of hostility. As the weakest faction, players didn't have the ability to contend against any faction at this stage of the game. From this, it could be seen that players were existences that could be wiped out at any time in a hostile environment. I couldn't help but have a thought. Isn't Evil King recruiting people to strengthen his own force of power? In that case, can we, the player faction, go and join the Evil King? He wanted to strengthen Evil King's faction. Then, I will give you an example of the benefits that players can receive if they join the Evil King. First of all, the greatest benefit was that the players would be able to leave the hidden dragon and develop outside. After all, they had the Evil King's protection. This benefit could also be extended to balance the forces of Yuanshu and the Evil King. The second point was the protracted war derived from the balance. For the players, I don't need to go into detail about the benefits of a protracted war, right? It was a great opportunity for development. The so-called protracted war was a war of attrition for other forces and a competition of resources. But for us players, it was a great opportunity for development. The longer the war, the more intense it was, the faster we would develop. The third point was that the players had an advantage, which was that they weren't afraid of death in battle. As the leader of a faction, the Evil King would definitely put them in an important position in the face of such conscientious forces that always rush to the forefront. Moreover, he was a Ghost Emperor powerhouse and the incarnation of the ancient god's evil thoughts. He might have a lot of treasures hidden on him. He would definitely reward his subordinates who worked so hard. That would be an additional reward. The fourth point, seeing Yin Xiaoqi's analysis and suggestion post, the players were completely convinced. Crayon_Shinchan, F*CK, asking the players to rely on the Evil King and use him to develop themselves. I'm really convinced. I can't think of any way to deal with you. Surprise emoji, Shuali_the_ strongest. I'm totally convinced. After reading your analysis post, I think it can really be implemented. After all, the players won't lose anything and can even gain so many additional benefits. Tonghua gave a thumbs up emoji. Peppa_Boar. That's great. Using the Evil King's forces to develop and strengthen ourselves. That's awesome. Watermelon_Taro. The Evil King. This subordinate is really awesome. Every time they charge into battle, it's like they don't care about their lives. They even shout the Evil King is the strongest. I'm so pleased. I'll reward each of them with a set of purple equipment as encouragement. Laughing emoji, Crayon_Shinchan. Players, the Evil King is really awesome. Every time we fight, he allows us to farm experience and soul coins like crazy. He even rewards us with treasures. That's really gratifying. Next time, we'll charge even harder. Laughing emoji, Invincible_loneliness. The most fatal thing is that if the players help the Evil King to kill In Xiaoqi, all the players will definitely rebel on the spot and kill the Evil King. I've even made up the script of In Xiaoqi is a domineering woman. What a suffocating operation. I'm impressed. In Xiaoqi's suggestion post was pushed to the top of the forum. People kept replying to it, and the scene was very lively. This suggestion could help the players get out of the predicament of being besieged on all sides. They could rely on their own advantages and use the Evil King's advantages to strengthen themselves. Players from both the European server and the original server generally gave it a good review and decided to implement In Xiaoqi's script. Land of Sangshu, Spectral Dragon Tomb. At this time, in the central area of the Spectral Dragon Tomb, Yuanchu's figure was floating in the air. He looked at the chaotic windstorm from afar with a pale face. As the Aurora windstorm approached, Yuanchu slammed his palms forward several times. Suddenly, several transparent palm-shaped holes appeared outside the Aurora windstorm. However, they quickly recovered and the windstorm continued to wreak havoc, pushing forward. In the face of this situation, Yuanchu snorted coldly. A black beast appeared on the surface of his body. It then left his body and dashed forward, crashing into the Aurora windstorm. Boom! The beast was strangled to death by the wind. As a result, the wind weakened, and the windstorm began to fall into disorder and collapse. However, before long, the wind intensified again. All the disorder was repaired, and the Aurora windstorm was formed again. Fortunately, the windstorm was affected by Yuanchu. It had changed its direction and was no longer blowing toward this area. Seeing the Aurora windstorm moving further away, Yuanchu's face turned cold. He had no idea what was going on recently. The natural disasters that were sealed in the ancient times had appeared on a large scale. Some of them were even suppressed and sealed by him when he was the king of his excellency. Such an abnormal situation gave Yuanchu a headache. It also greatly affected his plan to rule the land of Sangshu. His figure slowly descended. The Ghost King and the Ghost Generals below immediately bowed respectfully when they saw him. Have you checked it out? What's going on? Why are all these ancient seals destroyed? Yuanchu looked at one of them coldly and asked. Chapter 245. Fenshui, the Ghost King's expression turned serious. Your Majesty, I've gone to a few sealed areas to investigate and found that all of them were destroyed. This means that it's not a coincidence. There's a mastermind behind all of this. Yuanchu's expression turned ugly when he heard this. He had only been released from the prison for a short while, and there was already someone behind the scenes trying to stop him. The first person that came to Yuanchu's mind was Sangshu, the person who defeated him and took away his position as his excellency. However, Yuanchu shook his head and his heart, thinking that this idea was too unrealistic. Now that he knew how Sangshu died, his soul had already entered limbo. How could he return? After all, Sangshu was defying the heavens. If he didn't die, the gods in the heavenly realm wouldn't let him go. However, if it wasn't Sangshu, Yuanchu couldn't figure out who would be trying to stop him behind the scenes. Hundreds of thousands of years had passed, and his old enemies were all gone. His only biggest threat, Songshu, was already dead. He felt that it was impossible for him to have any enemies. After knowing the current situation of the land of Songshu, Yuanshu thought that the position of His Excellency was already in the bag. Your Majesty, I've also found out something. The evil thought of the evil demon god has been born. Fenshui, the Ghost King, spoke again. What? Yuanshu's expression froze when he heard this. The evil demon god was ranked in the top 100 on the underworld god list. His strength had reached the ancient god realm, and he was also the creator of this huge region. Therefore, Yuanshu had a bad feeling when he heard that his evil thought had been born. What is he doing now? He's recruiting and accumulating strength. His purpose is clear. Fenshui said worriedly. How dare a mere evil thought like him compete with me for the position of His Excellency? He's overestimating himself. Yuanshu said coldly. But Your Majesty, this evil thought was left behind by the evil demon god before he became a god. Its strength is at least at the Ghost Emperor level. What's more terrifying is that it's almost immortal. Otherwise, the first His Excellency wouldn't have chosen to seal it instead of destroying it completely. I'm afraid it won't be easy to deal with. Then seal it again. He'll regret it if he dares to go against me. Yuanshu's eyes flickered with a cold light as he strode toward the new His Excellency's palace that was being built. When the rest of the subordinates saw this, they looked at each other with worried expressions. They were willing to be loyal to Yuanshu not only because they were afraid of Yuanshu's powerful strength, but also because they wanted to develop under Yuanshu's leadership. However, everything seemed to have gone beyond their imagination. The process of unifying the land of Songshu, which was supposed to be in the bag, had now encountered so many variables. They didn't know what to do in this situation. After all, if the evil king really had the ability to build a force, then as Yuanshu's subordinates, they had no choice but to participate in the war. They were not afraid of war, but they felt that it was not worth it to risk their lives and subordinates' lives for Yuanshu to fight for the position of His Excellency without gaining any benefits. After all, people died in war. Even if it was a large clan, it was common for them to be destroyed in such a large-scale war. Land of Songshu, Hidden Dragon Zone. A Buddha statue flew over from afar and quickly landed in the Hidden Dragon Swamp village. Seeing this scene, the players immediately shouted in the regional channel, thinking that it was another natural disaster. At this time, the Buddha statue landed in the middle of the Hidden Dragon village, causing gravel and dust to fly everywhere. To the players' astonishment, a stream of light flashed across the petrified surface of the Buddha statue, and it suddenly became lifelike as if it had come to life. Who is your lord? At this time, the stone statue suddenly spoke. Its tone was filled with irrefutable majesty. Seeing that this person was so arrogant, the players were instantly displeased. Just as they were about to go forward and argue with him with their fists and legs, many players who had used the analysis tool suddenly shouted in the regional channel. Don't be impulsive. Calm down. This is the evil king. Brothers, calm down. We're on the same side. We're on the same side. This is our future sugar daddy. The big boss we're going to rely on. Don't court death. Damn, the one with the sword, come back quickly. This is our future big boss. Leave a good impression. Hearing the angry roar in the regional channel, the players who were about to argue stopped in their tracks. Then, they looked at the evil king with smiles on their faces, their expressions filled with many inexplicable meanings. Seeing this scene, the evil king was a little stunned. During this period of time, he had been to many regions. In the process of recruiting people to surrender, the first meeting was always a battle because no one would submit to him. At first, he thought that this place would also start with a battle, and the players had indeed done so. But why did they suddenly stop? At this time, Li Xing, Jason, and the other players who received the news rushed over, pushing through the crowd, and came before the evil king. I'm the Lord. Li Xing was the first to speak. After adopting Yin Xiaoqi's suggestion, the players of the European server also discussed and knew that there must be a person who could communicate with the evil king, someone similar to a clan leader. The strength of a Zero Guild was undoubtedly the strongest in the entire European server, letting their guild leader, Li Xing, be the clan leader was also what the players hoped for. Seeing that the leader representing this group of forces had appeared, the evil king's eyes flashed red. Very well, now I'll give you two choices. Pledge your loyalty to me, or die. As he spoke, the evil king's domineering aura condensed and his aura rose. Just as he was about to radiate his aura to the surrounding players, Li Xing suddenly spoke. We, the player clan, choose to surrender. Upon hearing this, the aura condensed on the evil king's body instantly dispersed. The evil king was not used to the fact that the players did not play by the rules. After all, they were a force that occupied a region, but the process of surrendering was too smooth. It was so smooth that the evil king had a feeling that he could not exert his strength. All of you can call me the evil king. From now on, all of you are my subordinates, and my goal is to become the new king of the land of Sangshu. The evil king spoke again after some thought. He originally thought that the players would be very surprised to hear his ambitious idea, and even resist it. After all, it was normal for the entire race to be destroyed in the process of taking the path of fighting for the position of king. After all, this was war. However, Li Xing nodded his head firmly and said, "My clan will definitely cooperate with the evil king to become the king. Aren't you guys afraid?" The evil king frowned. "No, none of us from the player clan are afraid of death. We are all very warlike. Our greatest honor is to die on the battlefield." Li Xing's answer made the evil king fall into silence. After coming into contact with Li Xing, the evil king initially thought that this was a cowardly clan with weak combat strength. After all, the few forces that went before him were all hot-tempered and unconvinced. If it wasn't for his powerful combat strength, he wouldn't have been able to subdue those forces. Therefore, Li Xing's quick agreement was seen as cowardice and spineless in the eyes of the evil king. However, after hearing Li Xing say that his clan was very warlike and unafraid of death, and that dying on the battlefield would be a form of honor, the evil king was disgusted by this. This caused Evil King to feel a little disgusted, and his impression of the player clan declined once again. This clan has no ability, but they are good at bragging. This was the Evil King's first impression of the players. Chapter 246. Although his impression of the player clan had deteriorated, the Evil King had nothing to say since they had pledged their loyalty to him. Very well. From now on, the player clan will be my subordinate force. Li Xing nodded in agreement and asked, "So, Lord Evil King, how do you think we should fight against Yuanshu at this stage?" When he heard this, Evil King did not answer. Instead, he looked at Li Xing in surprise. The player clan and Yuanshu used to have a grudge? The Evil King felt that Li Xing's suggestion on how to fight against Yuanshu was unusual. After all, Yuanshu's strength was not a secret. Shouldn't he be afraid of such a strong opponent? However, the Evil King could not understand why Li Xing was still thinking about how to fight against Yuanshu. "Yes, Lord Evil King, our clan used to have a deep grudge against Yuanshu." In Xiaoqi's script was very comprehensive, including how the players should behave in front of the Evil King and their background settings. Therefore, the Evil King nodded in realization after hearing Li Xing's explanation. The Evil King felt a little relieved after understanding the irreconcilable hatred between the player clan and Yuanshu. At least this could improve the player clan's combat power in the future against Yuanshu's army. The Evil King nodded after hearing Li Xing's explanation. As for how to deal with Yuanshu, this is what I'm thinking. At this stage, the Northwest is the main territory of Yuanshu's force. Therefore, we should use the area where they have relatively weak control as our main development area. At this stage, the Hidden Dragon Zone where you are, the ruins in the west, and the Hidden Fog Forest, a total of 7 forces have pledged their loyalty to me. We will use this area as our base camp and develop from there. Li Xing could not help but nod after hearing the Evil King's plan. The battle plan that the Evil King proposed was completely feasible to Li Xing. In the subsequent discussion with the Evil King, Li Xing did not just listen. Other than asking his own doubts, he began to propose a set of defensive and counterattack strategies according to In Xiaoqi's plan. In Xiaoqi's suggestion in the forum was for the evil king to give up the surrounding areas like the hidden fog forest and gather all the forces that he had conquered in the hidden dragon zone and the ruins. At this stage, the evil king's force was on the weaker side. Blindly expanding their territory would be an unwise move, so they gave up on the excess territory and holed up. They would first consolidate their strength. After all, with less territory, it would be easier for them to defend. Then, they would consider expanding their territory after they had stabilized their power. Li Xing's suggestion surprised Diablo. Then, he began to think about the feasibility of this method. He was formed from evil thoughts, so he was not afraid of death. However, his forces would definitely not be able to survive in the early stages. Therefore, after careful consideration, the evil king felt that it was the best choice to hide and defend. This time, evil king's attitude toward Li Xing changed. Very well, I accept your suggestion. I'll inform them to evacuate their territories and move the hidden dragon ruins here. As for your player clan, just wait for my orders. This battle will come sooner or later. Li Xing nodded his head respectfully. In fact, he was overjoyed in his heart and admired In Xiaoqi even more. It could be said that from the moment the evil king took the initiative to seek her out to the moment the evil king accepted her suggestion, In Xiaoqi had accurately predicted everything. Everything was progressing steadily according to her script. What they needed to do next was to show off the player's power to increase the importance of the evil king's heart and prepare for the next step of the scenario. Land of Sangshu, Death Garden Forbidden Area. Behind the towering statue of the evil demon god, weeds grew everywhere, and all kinds of colorful poisonous plants grew there. The air was filled with a sweet, poisonous aura, and the vines of the plants inside danced like spirit snakes, looking very frightening. This area was called a Forbidden Area because it used to be the location of the spiritual garden of the evil demon god, the creator of the land of Sangshu. It was filled with all kinds of demonic plants, and danger lurked everywhere. At this moment, he was walking in this area, searching for the next seal through live streaming. During this period of time, as he continuously released natural disasters, his popularity among the players increased rapidly. He enjoyed the feeling of being valued. Therefore, he put in more effort in digging the seals. Other than helping the European server players solve their predicament, he also gained a lot of rewards while digging the seals. He had already obtained the remains of 2 early-stage ghost kings. Although his business ability was getting stronger, he was still a little scared after coming to the Death Garden. This was because the plants here were too terrifying. Plants with the combat power of Ghost Supreme Commander were everywhere. He even suspected that there were demonic plants of Ghost King level. With Hui's power, even with Chana's zombie spirit, early-stage Ghost Supreme Commander, that had been strengthened many times, he could barely enter. He could only run away when encountering powerful plants. However, the compass's index had reached its peak. Although it was dangerous, Hui had no intention of leaving. After moving forward for a while, the compass began to shake. Hui looked down at the ground under his feet and did not find anything special. However, the compass could not be wrong. Therefore, he began to instruct Chana's zombie spirit to dig with all his might. After about 10 minutes of digging, a huge, deep pit appeared. At this moment, Hui waved his hand to stop Chana's zombie spirit from digging and jumped into the deep pit. It was not that he did not want to dig anymore, but Chana's zombie spirit could not dig any further. The layer of soil below could not be broken by a shovel. In order to find out the reason, Hui peeled away the soil layer bit by bit. Suddenly, he found a huge black stone slab. Looking at the chipped shovel in Chana's zombie spirit's hand, Hui was surprised by the hardness of the stone slab. Driven by curiosity, Hui began to instruct Chana's zombie spirit to dig from the side, while he cleaned the soil embedded in the patterns of the stone slab. After some effort, the full appearance of the stone slab was gradually revealed. It was a pure black stone slab. It was covered with mottled red spots that looked like bloodstains. There were also many strange words carved on it. In the middle of the slab, there was a black sunken palm print. Hui stood up and began to observe the stone slab. The twisted words on it began to distort under the analysis of the artifact. Kill, 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 kill. kill, 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 kill. This is my tombstone. From now on, my killing will not stop until I kill the great emperor. There were originally more words on the tombstone. However, due to the existence of the black palm print, some of the words were destroyed. Only a few broken words could be seen. I kill, destroy. Come back. One day, destroy the world. Extraterrestrial. Looking at the parsed words, he was stunned. He did not understand the meaning of the great emperor, so he could not understand it at all. He only felt that the person who wrote these words was murderous. The players in the live streaming channel were also confused. They could not understand the meaning of the tombstone at all. Then, they began to guess the hidden content based on the existing words. However, the silly netizens were much happier. Their guesses were gradually distorted and turned into various funny statements. Just as he was about to continue studying the tombstone, a shadow loomed over his head. He immediately raised his head and saw an unusually large bird beast that looked like an eagle floating in the sky. Its sharp eyes were staring at him. "It's you." Seeing who was examining the tombstone, Finshui, the Ghost King, flapped his wings. A strong wind suddenly rose from the ground and swept Hu-He up into the sky. Chapter 247. Due to the frequent natural disasters during this period of time, Finshui, the Ghost King, who was appointed by Yuan Shu to investigate this matter, was really distressed. Apart from knowing that the seal was destroyed by someone, he did not find any useful clues and could not report back to Yuan Shu. Therefore, Finshui, the Ghost King, simply gave up on the search and chose to wait for the guy who dug the seal to come. The area he originally chose was the original palace of His Excellency, Sangshu. This was because there was an endless dark sealed prison beneath the palace of the prefect. Many prisoners who were once enemies of the prefect were imprisoned in it, and Sangshu was once personally stationed there. However, after waiting for a few days, he did not see Hu-He at all. Then he suddenly realized that the most terrifying seal in the land of Sangshu was definitely the area of the Death Garden. It was said that the body of the evil demon god was buried in this area. Of course, he was not sure whether this legend was true or not. He could not even verify whether the evil demon god was dead or not. However, if everything was true and the body of the evil demon god was dug out, it would cause a terrible disaster. He was terrified just thinking about it. Thinking of this, he quickly headed towards the Death Garden and coincidentally saw Hu-He who was digging out the seal. Finally, he found a culprit. Finshui's eyes flashed with a sharp cold light, but he did not kill Hu-He immediately. Instead, he grabbed Hu-He and prepared to bring him back to report back. However, at this moment, Finshui suddenly realized that there seemed to be something in the hole that was dug out. Apart from the zombie spirit of Cha-Na, a huge black tombstone came into view. He could not understand the ancient divine text, but the black palm print on it scared him. This was the aura of a god. Turning his head to look at Hu-He who was struggling in his hand, Finshui, the Ghost King's heart trembled. That was close, that was close. Could the evil demon god that had disappeared really be sleeping underneath? At this moment, Finshui, the Ghost King, felt like strangling Hu-He to death. According to the legend, the evil demon god was bloodthirsty. The reason why the Death Garden that he was in could grow so many demonic plants was because the evil demon god watered the land with the blood of various creatures, and it was full of demonic nature. The authenticity of these legends could not be verified. However, the recent emergence of the Shebi zombie clan had confirmed the legend of the evil demon god casting a soul-destroying curse. If the evil devil god was really dug out, then Yuan Shu, the evil king, and the various natural disasters would be nothing. They would not even be able to fight for the position of His Excellency. Finshui thought to himself. "Pan." Finshui, the Ghost King, slapped Hu-He across the face, catching him off guard and causing his head to tilt backward. "What the F asterisk CK? Big Bird, you hit me. You're amazing. Just you wait. After I, Drought Demon, refine you, I'll pluck out all your pa. After venting for a while, Finshui flapped its wings and buried the area that might have been a sealed area. Then, it spread its wings and flew away with Hu-He. At that moment, Hu-He's nose was bleeding profusely. He didn't even dare to say anything as his face was lifeless. In the live stream, crayon_Shinchan, Motherf asterisk Kerr, Demon King, remember this. We'll help you find out where his ancestral grave is. If he hits you, you'll dig him up and curse him for 18 generations. No, 100 generations. Shueli_the_strongest. What a pity. It seemed like he was about to dig something out, but was captured by Yuanshu's subordinate, the Ghost King. I feel sorry for the Demon King for half a second. Laughing emoji. Watermelon_Taro. The wind is howling and the water is cold. The Demon King will never return. Laughing emoji. Assassin's Creed. It's a pity to see the great Demon King being captured, but why does it feel so good? We don't have any deep hatred. Laughing emoji. A big wolf dog, look. The great Demon King is flying. What is that flowing blood-red thread? I'm curious. Laughing emoji. Crayon_Shinchan replied to A_large_wolf dog. Look, isn't this a dog? Pat the dog's head 3 times. Laughing emoji. Seeing that he had failed to excavate the seal, the players did not feel regretful. Instead, they wanted to see how he would be dealt with. There were even players in the live stream room who had open bets, giving other players a few options with different ratios for them to place their bets. Seeing this, he suddenly felt a little sad. Is your happiness built on the pain of others? Are you still human? The wind howled in his ears, and the blood from his nose was blown into beads of blood by the wind, splashing onto his face. He felt bitter. After about an hour or so, Finshui, the Ghost King, slowed down and began to descend. At this moment, the name of the place on the map appeared. Mysterious Dragon Tomb. At this moment, Finshui, the Ghost King, suddenly swooped down. After gliding at a low altitude for some distance, he suddenly let go of allowing him to free fall and hit the ground hard. After flapping his wings to stabilize his body, Finshui landed steadily. Then he spoke to Yuanshu, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground in front of him. My king, this is the person who is destroying the seal. Hearing this, he crawled up from the ground with a grimace. When he raised his head, he realized that it was an old acquaintance. I guess that it might be you, and it's just as I expected. Tell me, what's your purpose in doing this? Seeing Yuanshu was not surprised at all. After all, he was also dug out by However, he did not understand why he would do this. This was an arduous and unrewarding task. There were many sealed lands in the land of Songshu that were full of danger, and one could lose his life if he was not careful. However, he was also his savior, so Yuanshu did not choose to search his soul directly. Instead, he asked, if I said that I was digging for fun, would you believe me? He whispered, looks like you have secrets. Yuanshu, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, reached out his hand and pulled to his side. I'll give you one last chance. Tell me the truth. If there's anything in your words that I don't think is true, I'll search your soul myself. Yuanshu said calmly. Hearing this, he was so angry that he laughed. You're making me look like I'm scared. If you want to talk about death, I'm at least one of the top few deaths in this game. How could I be scared by you? I was just digging for fun. If you don't believe me, search my soul yourself. Since he knew that he might not be able to leave this place alive, he slapped his thigh and looked like he was ready to risk everything. Yuanshu slowly turned his head and stared at He could not help but frown. I realize that you're not afraid of me at all. What's wrong? We both have one head, 2 arms, and 2 legs. Do you have wings? Why should I be afraid of you? He did not lose in his imposing manner. However, Finshui, the Ghost King, could not help but glare at I'm the only one with wings here. Since you're not afraid of death, are you afraid of loneliness? Yuanshu's face turned cold when faced with the fearless What do you mean? He was stunned. The seal of eternity? Don't you like to dig out seals? Then I'll seal you and let you suffer in the darkness. Without waiting for Hui's reply, Yuanshu turned his head and looked at Finshui, the Ghost King. Finshui, bring him to the endless darkness and seal him. Bring him back after 1,000 years. Upon hearing this, Finshui's face revealed a sinister smile. Then he flapped his wings and grabbed Hui in his hand. Then he quickly flew towards the direction of the original His Excellency's palace. In the underworld, the greatest pain was never death, but the endless seal. Even the gods would go crazy from the pain of suffering alone in the long years. In the land of Tsangshu, there was such a sealed place used for imprisonment. It was the underground of the original His Excellency's palace. This seal was personally built by Tsangshu tens of thousands of years after he became His Excellency. Its purpose was to suppress all forces that dared to go against him. In this prison, the soul's perception of the flow of time was completely different from the outside world. An hour in the outside world was equivalent to 1,000 years in the endless darkness. Moreover, there was no food or spiritual energy in the prison. One could not even cast spells. Even the strength of one's physical body would be sealed. Even death would be an extravagant hope. It was truly a land of darkness. It was also because of the existence of this seal that Tsangshu's position was extremely stable during his reign. No one dared to rebel because no one wanted to spend the rest of their life in the darkness. That was a torture worse than death. Chapter 248. Land of Tsangshu, the former His Excellency's palace. A huge shadow streaked past from afar, heading towards them. Flying at high speed, the strong wind whistled past Hui's ears, making it hard for him to open his eyes. Everything around him was a blur. When they arrived above the former His Excellency's palace, Finshui, the Ghost King, suddenly descended and took Hui for a high-altitude bungee jump. The Tsangshu, His Excellency's palace, was already in ruins. All the resources inside had been divided by the lords of various regions, making it look like a wasteland. When they were about to reach the ground, Finshui's body began to shrink. He grabbed Hui and flew into His Excellency's palace, arriving at a corner of the hall. Looking at the stubborn Hui, Finshui flapped his wings violently. Suddenly, the ground cracked open, revealing a pitch-black hole. "Big Bird, what are you doing?" Hui asked cautiously as he stared at the pitch-black hole. "Aren't you not afraid of death? Then we'll meet again in 1,000 years." Finshui sneered, then kicked Hui into the black hole. After entering the seal, darkness instantly enveloped him. However, Hui was calm. To him, being sealed for 1,000 years could be solved by committing suicide. Otherwise, being sealed would be equivalent to being sealed. He believed that battle online would not have such an obvious bug. Therefore, Hui began to observe his surroundings without any worries. As the surroundings were pitch black and very quiet, Hui took out a searchlight from the channel to check out the situation. A beam of light shot out and swept across the surroundings. However, what happened next surprised Hui. The searchlight had only shot out a distance of 3 meters before it began to shorten rapidly. It was as if there was a monster in the darkness devouring the light bit by bit until the surroundings were plunged into darkness again. Hui had no choice but to put away the searchlight and shouted, "Is anyone there?" However, as soon as his voice came out of his throat, it dissipated instantly. Even Hui himself could not hear his own shout. Unable to see or hear, Hui suddenly panicked in such an environment. After all, everything in the game was too realistic. Under this state of shielding his senses, fear grew in Hui's heart. Hui, who had originally planned to explore the seal, suddenly gave up. He took out his shovel and was ready to end himself so that he could return to the safe zone and start all over again. After shielding himself from the pain, he began to mutilate himself. However, what happened next made Hui feel a little terrified. This was because every time the shovel in his hand collided with his body, an invisible darkness would envelop the injured area and cancel out the force. After trying a series of methods, such as smashing the head and slitting the neck, Hui was completely dumbfounded. "I can't die here." This scared Hui to death. If he couldn't return after dying, wouldn't that mean that he would have to stay here for 1,000 years? "I can't even live for 1,000 years. Am I supposed to let my descendants inherit this name?" Realizing that something was amiss, Hui quickly chose to quit the game. Fortunately, he was not in combat mode this time, so he easily exited the sealed world. After returning to reality, Hui entered the game again with a glimmer of anticipation in his heart. Darkness, it was still endless darkness. Withdraw. He entered again. The black world enveloped him once more. What the F asterisk CK? Did I really get banned? After a few attempts, he had a mental breakdown. He curled up in the dark, feeling wronged like a child. When the players in the live streaming channel saw that he had been banned, it became lively. Watermelon_Taro. Look, he's been banned for 1,000 years. I think this name can be inherited by his descendants after 1,000 years. After saying that, he tilted his head and kicked his legs. Laughing emoji. Shueli_the_ strongest replied to Crayon_Shinchan. Ha ha. How could you do such a sad thing? Ha ha. Peppa_Boar. 1,000 years later, Hui's descendants will log into the account, raise their shovels, and shout to the world that I am the great demon king of the new world. Bow down to me, stupid players. Laughing emoji. Cheated_1,000 replied to Peppa_Boar. Then he will be thrown into the endless darkness by the players of the new world and continue to be banned for 1,000 years. Laughing emoji. Roasted_Jade_Rabbit_Hugging_Chong. Idiotic netizens, a bunch of idiots. Ha ha. Captain_Dragonfly. Ha. The thing we've been looking forward to has actually come at this time. How sad. Great Demon King. Hold back your sorrow and face your new life with a smile. I recommend you to play Tetris. Laughing emoji. Seeing the players' replies, Hui's heart ached even more. He felt so wrong that he wanted to cry. However, in this area, not even tears could be shed. However, jokes were just jokes. After a while, the players began to organize their men and prepare to rescue the Great Demon King. Although the Great Demon King had done a lot of wrong in the past, he had done his best for the players of the land of Sangshu. His efforts were witnessed by everyone. After the jokes, they gathered spontaneously and prepared to head to the original palace of His Excellency, Sangshu, to rescue him. Seeing that the players were coming to rescue him, Hui finally perked up. That's right. Go to the forum and report the bug to the officials. Let them deal with it. Hui suddenly thought of a way to save himself. Thinking of this, Hui tried to open the forum. Fortunately, no matter the environment, the game's interface could be summoned. This made Hui feel more at ease. Then, Hui logged into the forum and prepared to post a request for help so that the players could pin it. If it was in the past, Hui would definitely believe that the players would try their best to make the post disappear. After all, it was every player's dream to be banned. However, it was different now. He was the savior, the light of hope for the players of the European server. After typing the title and content, Hui was about to click send when he suddenly saw a ray of light above him. Then a force lifted him up into the sky. Ha ha! 1,000 years have passed. How is it? Are you afraid? Hui was speechless. Looking at the smug face of Finshui, Hui glanced at the time marker at the bottom left corner of the interface. He was dumbfounded when he realized that it had only been an hour. Lu Wu had been paying attention to Hui's encounter. However, he was not the least bit worried about Hui being sealed. After Hui was sealed, he personally went at Sangshu. After asking, he found out that the endless darkness that he had set up was not something as terrifying as controlling the flow of time. With his strength, he could not create a seal that could control the flow of time. In fact, the inside of the endless darkness and the outside world were unified. The difference was that in this seal, the perception of the soul would be confused by the formation that Sangshu had set up, causing an error in the perception of time. An hour inside was equivalent to 1,000 years in the outside world. After all, the power to change the time of two regions was difficult even for a Yin god to control. It was the power of the supreme law of time. How could a ghost emperor like him master it? Therefore, after knowing all this, Lu Wu was not worried that Hui would be in trouble. This was because Hui's soul was protected by the artifact. The trick of confusing the soul's perception of time might work on others, but it had no effect on a player like Hui. Moreover, even if Hui was really sealed for 1,000 years, Lu Wu could take the initiative to recall him back into the artifact. In other words, Hui had nothing to worry about. Of course, Hui was not aware of all this. That was why he was scared. Sure enough, you've been scared silly. Kid, weren't you not afraid of death back then? How do you feel now? Tell me. Finshui, the Ghost King, looked at Hui, who was in a daze. Hui was speechless. Actually, I feel okay. Chapter 249. Upon hearing this, Shui, the Ghost King, was dumbfounded. Have you really been tortured to the point of insanity? Looking at the calm Shui, the Ghost King, could not remain calm anymore. In fact, he understood why Shu wanted to seal Shui. Shu not only wanted to know the purpose of Shui digging the seals everywhere, but he also saw Hui's potential and wanted to subdue him. The reason why he sealed him was to suppress Hui and make him fear him. After all, Hui was not afraid of death. If Hui went crazy, it would be hard for him to explain to Shu. I'm not crazy. You're the crazy one. Looking at Shui, Hui could not help but complain. At this moment, Hui was not flustered at all. First of all, he had the support of the army of players who could come to his rescue at any time. At the same time, he was even less afraid after understanding that the time of the seal in the endless darkness was actually equivalent to 1 hour. I knew it. How could a game like Battle Online have such a huge bug? At this moment, Hui could not help but think happily. Looking at Shui, the Ghost King, Hui had already realized his importance. At the same time, the desire to explore the seal rose in his heart again. So he asked in a low voice, should I extend it for another 1,000 years? Shui, the Ghost King, was speechless. Looking at the dumbfounded Shui, Hui spoke again. You asked me how I felt? I didn't feel it clearly just now. Should I do it again? Looking at the unusually calm Hui, Shui, the Ghost King, suddenly felt a little angry. According to what he thought, Hui should be crying bitterly after being released, kneeling on the ground and begging bitterly. Why the F***CK did he provoke him? After staring coldly at Hui for a while, Shui, the Ghost King, had a guess in his heart. This guy is pretending, but in fact, he must be very afraid. He did not believe that Hui was completely fine. After all, he had seen a few guys released from the endless darkness. Those guys' first thought was to beg, without any psychological defense. As long as they did not return to the endless darkness, they were willing to die, not to mention pledge their loyalty. Thinking of this, Shui, the Ghost King, grinned hideously. Seems like the time is too short. I hope you can still be so tough the next time I see you. As he spoke, he kicked Hui into the endless darkness once again. The interior of the endless darkness was made up of cells that were shaped like grids. Other than the situation inside that could be controlled from the outside, the existence of other prisoners could not be observed from the inside. He was not worried that Hui would do anything shocking. Moreover, he had checked Hui and found no tools on him. Entering the endless darkness once again, Hui was extremely calm this time. First, he opened the interface and played the music. After all, the music came from a divine artifact and was directly transmitted to his hearing. Even the endless darkness could not block it. Then, he opened the forum and read the posts one by one. Finally, he turned on a live stream and watched the idiotic netizens playing tricks outside. After a series of actions, the light outside reappeared and Hui was sucked out. How do you feel? Hui nodded with a serious expression. I feel something this time. Shui, the Ghost King, was infuriated. He kicked Hui into the endless darkness again. He did not believe that Nung would be able to hold on forever. However, at this moment, in the endless darkness, Hui's body twisted and swayed as he danced to the music. Anyway, no one could see them here, so they could party as much as they wanted. An hour later, Hui, who had returned to the ground, did not even manage to stand firm for a few seconds before he was kicked back into the darkness by the angry Shui. This time, Shui, the Ghost King, was completely enraged. He planned to seal Hui for 10,000 years. He did not believe that this kid would not be afraid. Returning to the endless darkness, Hui listened to the music, read the posts, and watched the live stream. When he realized that Shui, the Ghost King, had not released him, he went offline to make a cup of coffee. After drinking it contentedly, he returned to the game. This time, he planned to explore the endless darkness. The area he was in was actually not large, only about 20 square meters. At the end of it was a soft, touchable seal wall. Hui tried to push it, but found that the seal wall was very tough. With his strength, he could not break it at all. However, This also aroused Hui's strong desire to break the seal. Although he was not strong enough, he still had the shop and tools. Therefore, Hui began to look for tools to break the seal in the shop. Recently, Jason, a player from the Zero Guild in the European server, had supported him with some funds to break the seal. Therefore, he was not afraid of wasting soul coins. He tried tools such as electric drills and demon-breaking knives. If it was not for the fact that the shop did not have excavators, he would have bought one and tried it. Unfortunately, these tools seemed to be completely ineffective against the seal wall. He could not break it at all. However, Hui was not discouraged. He continued to search in the special column of the shop. There were many special items there. He felt that he might find an unexpected surprise. After searching for a while, he really found something good. Anti-seal canceller tool. Item details. A product created by an unknown R&D expert in the early days of seal research. It can cancel out the power of most seals. Note: this tool is a one-time use item. Item price. For 100 soul coins. Looking at the price, Hui suddenly hesitated. He touched the seal wall, but his heart was restless again. After thinking for a while, Hui clenched his teeth and bought one. The anti-seal canceller, which was shaped like a doorknob, suddenly appeared. Filled with anticipation, Hui pressed the tool on the air wall. At this moment, the seal wall rapidly rippled. It felt hard to the touch and was no longer as soft as before. About a minute later, with a pop sound, the anti-seal canceller in Hui's hand suddenly shattered. He had already seen the effect, but the tool was broken. This undoubtedly made Hui's teeth hurt. However, since he had already started, it was not his style to give up halfway. Hence, he bought another one. Just like that, after using up 3 anti-seal nullifiers, the seal wall suddenly cracked. Seeing that he had successfully broken the seal, Hui clenched his fist in excitement and then walked in. The inside of the seal wall was still pitch black. Hui began to search around aimlessly. Pop! As he walked, Hui suddenly felt something under his feet. He immediately tripped and fell to the ground. He quickly stood up and subconsciously took a step back. However, this space was shrouded in darkness. He could not see what was under his feet at all. Hence, he gathered his courage and bent down to touch it. Slippery and very soft? However, the creature under his feet did not react at all, as if it was dead. Unable to feel what creature it was, Hui was a little depressed. He felt that he could not communicate with it at all. Hence, he began to search the shop again. After a while, Hui found another good item. Soul communication rope. Item details. A soul conductor tool created by an unknown research expert. It is used to communicate with spirit-type creatures, such as ghosts and evil spirits. Usage: all creatures, spirits, that come into contact with the soul communication rope will be able to communicate. Note: most spirits have no consciousness and cannot be communicated with. There is no refund after purchase. Item price: 500 soul coins. The price made Hui's balls hurt again, but he still bought it reluctantly. Then, he followed the instructions and placed one end of the rope on the creature lying on the ground. After connecting, Hui began to make a call at a close distance. Hey, brother, can you hear me? Chapter 250. After trying to shout a few times, Hui realized that the creature lying on the ground did not respond at all. This made Hui a little angry. He did not expect the shop to sell fake goods, especially the little research and development expert that was written on the description. This was too much. How could they make fake goods? Did they have any professional ethics? A little lowly in the outside world sensed Hui's thoughts and immediately cast a faint glance at him, causing Hui to shiver subconsciously. Just when Hui thought that there was no way to communicate, a stuttering voice suddenly appeared in his mind. Who are you? Let me out. I'll promise you anything. Hearing this sudden reply, Hui was stunned for a moment before he was pleasantly surprised. Hey, brother, tell me who you are first. I am. While Hui was waiting, this guy suddenly stopped talking. Who are you? Hui asked again. I forgot. Hui was speechless. Oh, I seem to be the resentful heart. Ghost King. I think so, the voice said with uncertainty. This made Hui completely speechless. However, seeing that this guy was still breathing, Hui suddenly had a bold idea. Now that Finchue, the Ghost King, was above, with his own strength, he would definitely not be able to defeat or escape. However, with the help of this Ghost King, there might be some hope. This made Hui think again. One more person means one more force. He might as well find more fighters. However, he definitely could not afford to use up the soul coins he had now, so he needed external support. Therefore, Hui opened his friends list and found his biggest financial backer at the moment, Jason. After starting the communication, Hui explained his current situation and expressed his hope to get his soul coin support. Hui was undoubtedly a great help to the European server at this stage. Without saying anything, Jason transferred him 20,000 soul coins. This made Hui feel touched. He felt that he was a decent person and was being valued. With 20,000 soul coins, Hui was suddenly full of confidence. After taking away the soul communication rope, he began to look for the seal wall in this room and bought an anti-seal canceller to crack it. After spending 3 hours, Hui had deciphered more than 10 rooms. Apart from 2 empty rooms, he had found a total of 13 people with unknown abilities. Since he couldn't see them from here, he couldn't use his analysis ability. Moreover, all of these guys had their powers sealed and couldn't use them at all. Therefore, Hui couldn't determine their strength. However, Hui was still very happy. At least their team's strength had increased. However, there was one thing that gave Hui a headache. These fellows did not even know what their names were. 4 of them said that they might be called the Resentful Heart Ghost King. 3 of them said that they were called the Empty Ghost General, and one of them even said that he was called Songshu, and he seemed to be an Abyssal Prefect. This made Hui feel like he had saved a bunch of retards. However, he had no choice. If he wanted to escape, he would have to rely on the strength of these people. After digging a few more seal walls, Hui brought all of them back to their original rooms. He made them hold onto the soul communication rope one by one and started communicating. After that, the conversation with them made Hui feel mentally and physically exhausted. Every one of them stuttered when they spoke and looked like they were about to die. Due to the protection of the Dark Force, although they couldn't die, they were in fact no different from being dead. They were already lost in the passage of time, and their perception of the outside world had become very vague. However, even if it was troublesome to communicate, they still had to communicate. Hui began to explain the reason for digging them out. At the same time, he told them that they could leave immediately and asked them to hold on. There was also a very important point that Hui did not forget. He hoped that they would give Finchue, the Ghost King, a good beating when they got out. After all, Hui had never forgotten the hatred of being slapped in the face back then. After explaining in detail a few times, Hui let out a sigh of relief when he saw that the 20 or so people agreed in a silly manner. Then, he laid on the ground, opened a forum, and started to post and watch the live broadcast. Sigh, it's so awesome for us players to have Wi-Fi. If it weren't for my heavy responsibility in the so-called endless darkness, I would have stayed at home for a year. At this moment, Hui's heart was filled with happiness. He had completely forgotten how he looked like when he was curled up in a corner and crying silently. Time passed by slowly. The rest of the creatures became slightly more energetic during the interaction. They were no longer as dull as before, and they also remembered some things. This made Hui very happy. While watching the live broadcast, he would interject from time to time and exchange a few words, as if he was the leader. In the outside world, Finchue, the Ghost King, seemed a little annoyed. These 10 hours of boring waiting had also worn down a lot of his patience. However, since he had promised to wait for 10,000 years, he would wait for 10,000 years. He had to let Hui experience the true meaning of terror and helplessness. When he felt that it was about time, Finchue, the Ghost King, opened the seal of the endless darkness with anticipation. Then he extended his hand and sucked downwards. However, he was immediately dumbfounded. One figure after another emerged from below. Including Hui, there were more than 20 figures. Their faces were dull, especially when they saw the sunlight. They subconsciously covered their eyes with their hands, as if they were not used to it. Suddenly, a spiritual energy storm blew around them. A large amount of spiritual energy began to gather here, pouring into the bodies of these creatures that had just walked out of the seal. looking at who was smiling at him proudly. Fin Shui, the Ghost King, who then swept his gaze across the other figures, felt his heart skip a beat. At this time, Fin Shui, the Ghost King, was horrified to find that he knew many of these figures. There were even a few that Sangshu had ordered him to throw down personally. He did not know how he did it. After all, no power could be used in the endless darkness. Moreover, he was sure that he did not have any tools on him. However, he knew one thing now, and that was that it was bad. These fellows who were thrown into the endless darkness were stubborn and did not submit to anyone. Moreover, they were powerful beings. Now that they had come out, they would definitely turn the land of Sangshu upside down. As spiritual energy continued to flow into their bodies, their numb souls began to gradually recover, and their memories began to flow back bit by bit. Although they could not recover to their peak state in a short period of time, they had already somewhat understood what was going on with them. Brothers, beat him up. At this time, he waved his hand and shouted at Fin Shui, the Ghost King, proudly. Upon hearing this, Fin Shui, the Ghost King, immediately flapped his wings and tried to escape. With a glance, he estimated that there were at least 8 Ghost Kings here. Although they had not recovered their strength, if they were to really fight, he would definitely not be able to handle them. However, as soon as his figure flew into the air, he saw several figures approaching him and pressing him to the ground together. In fact, Hui did not know that, in the endless darkness, Hui's appearance had left a very clear mark in their hearts. Perhaps to Hui, it was just a few short hours, but to them, they had spent a long time together. During that period of time, Hui was indeed their leader. He brought them light and hope, allowing them to no longer be lost in the flow of time. After these vicious fellows regained consciousness, they were subconsciously full of respect for Hui. Chapter 251. At that moment, in the eyes of these prisoners, Hui was their pillar of support in the endless darkness. Although they had not fully recovered their sanity, they did not hesitate to execute Hui's orders. Scram! The terrified Fin Shui, the Ghost King, frantically flapped his wings, trying to shake off the prisoners that were entangled around him. There were a total of 23 people, and every one of them was an expert who had left a glorious record in the history of the land of Sangshu. Even Fin Shui, the Ghost King, could not resist their combined strength. He was dragged down from the air bit by bit and finally pinned to the ground by their combined strength. Looking at Fin Shui, the Ghost King, who was struggling on the ground, he could not help but laugh. This time, he held the initiative. "My king won't let you off." Fin Shui roared as he stared at Hui. At this time, in the live streaming channel, the players who saw this scene had already begun to discuss and began to suggest how to deal with this Fin Shui, the Ghost King. Watermelon_Taro. Great Demon King, kill him. I'll be rich after killing you. This guy is very valuable and can level up many times. Crayon for Shinchan. No, I think we should lock him up for 1,000 years and let him feel despair and fear. Laughing emoji. Shueli_the_strongest. Revenge never waits overnight. I remember you said that you wanted to pluck off all his fur. Roasting jade rabbit with Chong-E in my arms. Slurp, this demon king should be delicious, expectant eyes. JPG. Peppa Boar, successfully counterattacked. The great demon king has counterattacked. Laughing emoji. Seeing the player's suggestion, Hui felt that it made sense. Hence, he pointed at Fin Shui, the Ghost King, and said, "Pluck off his fur and throw him into the endless darkness. Lock him up for 1,000 years before killing him." When the prisoners heard this, their eyes flashed with a murderous glint. They pressed down on Fin Shui, the Ghost King, and began to pluck his hair. As the feathers on his body dwindled, Fin Shui, the Ghost King, began to wail in agony. He glared at Hui with eyes that were about to pop out of their sockets. His heart was filled with rage, but there was nothing he could do. With the help of the prisoners, Hui was no longer in existence whose life and death he could easily control. A moment later, Fin Shui, the Ghost King, who had lost all hope, turned into a bald eagle. He was then carried by the prisoners and thrown into the endless darkness. Hui's heart was filled with the thrill of revenge. How they treated him, he would return it in the same way. Now that he had such a group of powerful fighters, He felt that he was about to reach the peak of his life. When he thought of Hitorigami, who was still stored in his own space, he could not help but complain. To hell with Hamba. An hour later, Finshui, the Ghost King, was pulled out of the endless darkness. At this time, Finshui, the Ghost King's eyes were dull, his face revealed some vicissitudes, and his eyes were filled with fear of the darkness. Looking at the comments in the live streaming channel, he asked the question that all the players wanted to know the answer to. Come, tell me, how do you feel? Plop. Finshui, the Ghost King, knelt on the ground in horror. No, I don't want to go in again. Looks like you haven't had enough time to comprehend anything. He returned Finshui, the Ghost King's words to him. Then, he waved his hand at the prisoners. Finshui, the Ghost King, was once again thrown into the endless darkness. Looking at the players' discussions, he couldn't help but grin. The plot had been reversed, and the current Finshui, the Ghost King, was him from back then. However, compared to him, there was no Wi-Fi inside, so he must be very unhappy when he felt that it was about time, he was about to signal the prisoners to fish Finshui, the Ghost King, out. This time, he didn't want to play anymore. He planned to kill him and refine his corpse into a zombie spirit. However, at this time, a strong pressure came from above. The prisoners around, he subconsciously tensed their bodies and instinctively got into a fighting stance. That's incredible. How did you do it? I'm getting more and more curious about you. Seal breaker. As the voice fell, a figure came from afar. With every step, the figure moved forward like a phantom. In the blink of an eye, it appeared not far from he. I have high hopes for you. Are you interested in working for me? Yuanshu smiled happily. He didn't even mention his subordinate, Finshui, the Ghost King, who was loyal to him. Yuanshu, I'll return Finshui, the Ghost King, to you. Let's go. He was a little nervous. Although he wasn't afraid of death, these 23 prisoners didn't have the ability to resurrect like him. At this time, they were like children who had just been enlightened and were full of attachment to him, he couldn't bear to leave them behind. I won't accept any negotiation. I only want an answer as to whether you're willing to serve me. Looking at the prisoners standing around him, he had an idea. All right, I promise you. Of course, he wasn't really willing to serve Yuanshu. In order to stabilize Yuanshu, he pretended to be loyal and then looked for an opportunity to leave with the prisoners. Yuanshu didn't answer. He just stared at he with purple mist swirling in his pupils. No, you're lying to me. Yuanshu waved his long sleeve, and a purple vortex formed in his hand. Seeing this, the prisoners around he immediately took a step forward and pushed forward together. A defensive wall was suddenly formed. Although they had lost most of their consciousness, they were still instinctively afraid of Yuanshu. They didn't attack him, but subconsciously activated their defense. If that's the case, I'll have to search your soul to find out your secret. Yuanshu said, and the purple vortex in his hand suddenly expanded. The surrounding wind swept, and a huge suction began to twist. Wood, gravel, and other objects were quickly sucked into the purple vortex and disappeared. The energy wall in front of he also began to ripple. Wisps of energy mist were sucked away and poured into the purple vortex. As Yuanshu pushed out the vortex in his hand, the energy wall began to shake violently, as if it would break at any time. Looking at the 23 prisoners who were struggling to resist in front of him, Yuanshu's expression was indifferent. Although the prisoners were strong, they had yet to recover their peak combat power. There was still a huge gap between them and him. Even though they worked together, it was still very difficult for the prisoners to resist. Under the continuous extraction of spiritual energy, some of them couldn't take it anymore. Their bodies started to show signs of depletion of spiritual energy. However, none of them chose to retreat or escape because he was standing behind them. Run. Don't worry about me. I won't die. Hui's heart trembled, and he couldn't help but roar. Although it was a short-term friendship, their sincerity had moved He couldn't bear to see them risk their lives for him. The prisoners coughed up blood at the same time. The blood gushed out and turned into blood beads that flew into the purple vortex. Their bodies trembled under the pressure of Yuanshu's powerful force. They seemed to be unable to hold on any longer. Their dull eyes were bloodshot, but they still gritted their teeth and held on. At this moment, they once again recalled the time in the endless darkness. There was only one thought in their minds, which was to protect their big brother with their lives and never allow him to be hurt. Even though their bodies were on the verge of collapse and they didn't dare to bear the burden, they still didn't take a step back. Run. Big dumb. Too dumb, you bunch of idiots. I said I won't die. Huey looked at them and couldn't help but roar. Hearing Huey shout, they turned their heads with pale faces and a silly smile appeared on their dull faces. They were simple and innocent. The attachment in their eyes was very clear, causing Huey's heart to tremble. Huff! The leading prisoner, whom we called Big Dumb, suddenly roared. The clothes on his body tore apart, revealing the upper body of a muscular horned dragon.